Hello guys, welcome to Monkey DFIC. So in this video, we will see what if Luffy ate the Hie Hie no Mi. Aokiji's fruit. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1, The Birth of the Ice Pirate. The small fishing village of Fusha lazed under the midday sun, its harbor bustling with the usual mix of fishermen and the occasional visiting ship. Today, though, the real action happened inside Party's bar, where a particular pirate crew had made themselves comfortable. 7-year-old Monkey D. Luffy pressed his face against the window before bursting through the door, eyes wide with excitement. "Shanks! You're back," he shouted, rushing toward the red-haired captain who sat casually at the bar counter. Shanks turned, a wide grin spreading across his scarred face. "Well, if it isn't the village troublemaker. Miss me, kid?" "No way." Luffy puffed out his chest. "I've been busy becoming stronger. Soon I'll join your crew." And the entire bar erupted in laughter, pirates slapping their knees and spitting out drinks. "You? A pirate?" Shanks wiped a tear from his eye. "Kid, you can't even swim." Luffy's face reddened. "That doesn't matter. I'll learn. I'm gonna be the greatest pirate ever." Lucky Roo, mouth full of meat, chuckled. "Being a pirate isn't just about swimming, you know. It's dangerous out there." "I'm not scared." Luffy climbed onto a bar stool, swinging his legs. "I'm brave. Everyone says so." Makino, the green-haired bartender, placed a glass of juice in front of Luffy with a kind smile. "That you are, Luffy. Braver than most grown men I know." Shanks leaned over, swiping the juice from Luffy's hands. "Brave enough for juice, maybe. Real pirates drink, give that back." Luffy lunged for his drink, but Shanks held it higher, laughing. Their everyday banter filled the bar, a routine that had developed over months since the red-haired pirates first docked in Fusha village. For Luffy, these pirates weren't just visitors, they were heroes, living the very dream he chased. While the crew drank and sang, Shanks nodded toward his first mate. "Ben, bring in that chest from the ship. The special one." Ben Beckman nodded, stepping outside. Minutes later, he returned with a small wooden chest, placing it on the counter. "What's that?" Luffy asked, eyes gleaming with curiosity. "Just a little something we picked up." Shanks winked, opening the chest to reveal a strange, light blue fruit that seemed to shimmer with frost despite the warm bar air. A devil fruit. The ice fruit, Hie Hie no Mi. Luffy leaned forward, mesmerized by the swirling patterns on its surface. "What's it do?" "Gives the eater ice powers," Yasopp explained, "but takes away your ability to swim forever. One bite and you're a hammer in water." "Scary stuff," Shanks added, closing the lid. "Worth a fortune though. We're delivering it to an interested buyer in the New World." Makino called Shanks to the other end of the bar to settle their tab. The pirates shuffled around, ordering more food and drink, their attention shifting from the chest. Luffy stared at the box. Ice powers. The idea swirled in his mind like the patterns on the fruit. He glanced around, nobody was watching. With quick fingers, he flipped open the lid and gazed at the fruit again. It looked weird, but how bad could it taste? Just one tiny bite. The moment his teeth sank into the fruit, Luffy knew he'd made a mistake. It tasted like rotten fish mixed with freezer burn, if such a flavor existed. His whole mouth went numb with cold. Bleck. He spat out what he could, but it was too late. He'd swallowed some. The bar went dead silent. Shanks turned slowly, eyes widening in horror. "Luffy, tell me you didn't." A sudden chill ran through Luffy's body. His fingertips turned pale blue, and his breath came out as visible vapor despite the summer heat. "I feel weird," Luffy whispered, right before a small explosion of frost erupted from his body, coating the counter in a thin layer of ice. You idiot! Shanks grabbed Luffy by the shoulders, accidentally touching his bare skin, and yanked back his hand with a yelp as frost formed on his palm. Do you have any idea what you've done? Luffy stared at his hands in shock as ice crystals formed and disappeared across his skin. I'm cold. You ate a Logia-type devil fruit, Ben explained, examining Luffy with concern. One of the rarest kinds. You're literally becoming ice. This is bad, Shanks paced. Really bad. The Marines would hunt down a kid with a power like this. Not to mention what our buyer will say. Luffy's lips trembled, not from cold but from fear. Am I in trouble? Shanks sighed, then surprised everyone by laughing. Well, what's done is done. Guess we better teach you how to use it before you freeze the whole village. The next weeks were chaos. Luffy couldn't control his powers at all. He'd get excited and suddenly the ground beneath his feet would turn to ice. He'd sneeze and send icicles flying across the room. He grabbed a door handle once and froze it solid, leaving it to shatter when the mayor tried to open it later. Focus, Luffy. Shanks instructed, standing across from him in a meadow outside the village. The power isn't controlling you, you control it. Feel the cold, direct it. Luffy scrunched his face, concentrating hard. His arm gradually transformed, becoming crystalline ice from shoulder to fingertip. I did it, he cheered, and promptly lost focus, his arm shattering into chunks. Aya! Luffy screamed, staring at his missing limb. Relax. Shanks grabbed his shoulder. You're ice now. It'll reform. Think about your arm. Sure enough, ice particles gathered from the air, rebuilding his arm perfectly. Whoa! Luffy whispered, flexing his restored fingers. That's so cool. Shanks rubbed his temples. This is going to be a long month. By the time the Red Hair Pirates prepared to leave Fusha Village, Luffy had gained basic control over his powers. He could create small ice structures intentionally and had learned to stop freezing things by accident, mostly. Remember what I taught you, Shanks said as they stood at the harbor. With great power, comes great adventure. Luffy finished with a grin. Shanks flicked his forehead. That's not it at all, you little troublemaker. Their farewell was interrupted by commotion at Party's bar. The local mountain bandit, Higuma, had returned with his crew, trashing the place because Makino couldn't serve them sake. Luffy, never one to back down, confronted them alone before Shanks arrived. Leave Makino alone, the boy demanded, standing in the doorway with his small fists clenched. Higuma laughed. Look boys, it's the little freak. I heard you ate some weird fruit. Why don't you run home before I teach you what happens to freaks? I'm not afraid of you. Luffy shouted, ice crystals forming around his feet without him noticing. The bandit grabbed Luffy by his shirt, lifting him off the ground. You should be. The moment Higuma's skin contacted Luffy's, frost spread across the bandit's hand. He yelped, dropping Luffy and staring at his blue-tinged fingers. What the hell? Luffy hadn't meant to freeze him, but his emotions were triggering his powers. The temperature in the bar plummeted as his anger grew. Glasses froze and cracked on tables. Get that monster! Higuma ordered, and his men rushed forward. Panicking, Luffy threw his hands up, and a wave of ice erupted from the ground, forming a jagged barrier between him and the bandits. The uncontrolled blast knocked over tables and chairs. Higuma backed away, genuine fear in his eyes. This ain't over, freak. The bandits retreated, but they caught Luffy alone near the harbor later that day. This time, they were prepared with thick gloves and coats. Not so tough without your devil powers, are you? Higuma taunted, swinging Luffy by his collar before tossing him into a small boat. Let's see if the rumors are true about devil fruit users and water. They rowed out to sea, Luffy struggling against the ropes they'd tied him with. His powers were weakening the further they got from shore. Please, don't. Luffy cried as Higuma dangled him over the water. I can't swim anymore. That's the point, the bandit sneered, letting go. Luffy hit the water with a splash and immediately felt his strength vanish completely. His body wouldn't move, it was like being paralyzed. He sank beneath the waves, lungs burning for air. Above, something massive broke the surface, the local Sea King, attracted by the commotion. In one swift move, it devoured the boat and bandits whole. Underwater, Luffy continued sinking, consciousness fading, when a strong arm wrapped around his chest. Through blurry vision, he saw red hair flowing in the water. Shanks. The Sea King turned its attention to them, jaws opening wide, but Shanks met its gaze with such intensity that the creature froze, then fled. On the shore, Luffy coughed up water as Shanks held him. Why? The boy sobbed. Why would you risk your life? Your arm. Shanks looked down at where his left arm had been, now just a bleeding stump. He smiled despite the pain. It's just an arm. I've got another one. Besides, you're worth it, kid. Before leaving the village for good, Shanks placed his straw hat on Luffy's head. This hat is my treasure, he said. Take care of it for me. Return it when you've become a great pirate. Luffy clutched the hat, tears and frost mixing on his cheeks. I promise. I'll become the greatest pirate ever, the king of the pirates. 10 years passed in a flash of training, growth, and dreams. 17-year-old Luffy stood at the bow of a small boat, the familiar weight of Shanks' straw hat on his head. The wind tousled his black hair as he gazed toward the endless horizon, a wide grin splitting his face. Finally, he breathed, his exhale visible despite the warm day. It's time. The decade since eating the Hie Hie Nomi had transformed Luffy from an uncontrollable ice hazard into a young man with impressive mastery over his Logia abilities. He'd trained relentlessly under Garp's harsh tutelage and alongside Ace and Sabo in the mountains. He'd discovered his ice could take almost any form he imagined, weapons, shields, structures. He could lower temperatures around him, freeze moisture in the air, and even transform his entire body into ice to avoid damage. The weaknesses remained, seawater still drained him completely, and he discovered sea stone had the same effect. But today none of that mattered. Today, he was setting sail to begin his journey. The villagers gathered to see him off, a mixture of pride and worry on their faces. Be careful out there, Luffy. Makino called, waving a handkerchief. Mayor Whoop Slap frowned. You're going to bring shame to our village, becoming a pirate. Luffy laughed, the sound bright and carefree. Just wait. One day you'll tell everyone the king of the pirates came from Fusha village. As his boat drifted from shore, Luffy couldn't resist a flashy farewell. He raised both hands, concentrating his power, and sent a spectacular display of ice crystals into the air. They caught the sunlight, refracting it into rainbow patterns before dissolving into gentle snowflakes that drifted down over the cheering villagers. See ya, he shouted as the current caught his boat. His first challenge came sooner than expected. The local Sea King, the same one that had attacked him and Shanks years ago, rose from the depths, eyeing his small vessel. Luffy didn't flinch. Instead, he grinned wider. Remember me? He asked, stepping to the edge of his boat. I've been waiting for this. As the Sea King lunged, Luffy's right arm transformed into glittering ice, expanding and sharpening into a massive spike. Ice Spear. He thrust forward, the ice extension piercing straight through the monster's jaw. The Sea King thrashed in pain before sinking beneath the waves. Told you I'd get stronger, Luffy said to the retreating form. He reformed his arm to normal, flexing his fingers. That's just the beginning. The weather shifted without warning, as it often did on the open sea. Dark clouds rolled in, and rain poured down, battering Luffy's small boat. Most sailors would panic, Luffy just laughed, letting the drops freeze around him into a protective shell. The real problem came when a whirlpool appeared ahead, its massive vortex threatening to swallow his vessel whole. "Ah, crap," Luffy muttered, scratching his head. Despite his powers, he couldn't fight ocean currents. "Guess I need a barrel." He spotted an empty supply barrel in his boat, dumped out the provisions, and climbed inside. Just before his boat splintered against the whirlpool's edge, Luffy sealed himself inside with a lid of ice. "Not my best plan," he admitted as darkness enveloped him and the barrel began to spin. The luxury cruise ship Alvida's pirates were currently raiding seemed promising at first. Fine wines, wealthy passengers to rob, elegant decor to trash. But for Kobe, the pink-haired cabin boy who'd been forced to serve Alvida for 2 years, it was just another day of misery. "Hey! Help me get this barrel inside," a pirate called to Kobe, pointing to a large wooden container that had washed up against the ship's hull during the storm. Kobe helped roll the surprisingly cold barrel into the ship's storeroom. The other pirates immediately saw it as a potential source of booze. "Let's crack it open." As one pirate raised his fist to break the lid, the barrel exploded from within. Shards of ice and wood flew in all directions as a young man in a red vest and straw hat emerged, stretching his arms above his head. "That was some nap," Luffy shouted, seemingly oblivious to the startled pirates. He stepped out of the barrel, ice crystals falling from his shoulders. "Who the hell are you?" the pirates demanded, drawing their swords. Luffy finally noticed them. "Oh, hey. Who are you guys? We should be asking that." One pirate swung his sword at Luffy's head. Instead of dodging, Luffy just stood there, and the blade passed through his neck, which had transformed into crystalline ice at the moment of impact. The pirate's sword emerged coated in frost, the metal so cold it cracked. "That's not very friendly," Luffy commented, his neck reforming perfectly. The pirates backed away in terror. He's a devil fruit user." "Yep." Luffy grinned. "I ate the Hie Hie no Mi. I'm an ice man." The pirates fled, leaving only Kobe, who stared at Luffy with his mouth hanging open. How did you do that?" Kobe stammered. "Your head should have been cut off." "I'm ice," Luffy shrugged as if it were obvious. "Swords don't work on me unless they use haki, which these guys definitely don't have." He turned to Kobe. "I'm Monkey D. Luffy, by the way. The man who's going to be king of the pirates." Kobe's eyes bulged. "PP Pirate King? That's impossible. You'd have to find the One Piece and conquer the Grand Line and face the Yonko and the Marines and, yep, all of that." Luffy's stomach growled loudly. "Got any food around here?" As they raided the ship's pantry, Kobe explained his situation: kidnapped by Alvida 2 years ago, forced to serve as her cabin boy, too afraid to escape. "You're pretty pathetic, huh?" Luffy said through a mouthful of apple. "I guess I am," Kobe admitted, hanging his head. "If I had courage like you." "What's your dream?" Luffy asked suddenly. Kobe hesitated. I've always wanted to become a marine. To catch bad pirates and help people." "Then do it," Luffy said simply. "What's stopping you besides being scared?" Before Kobe could answer, the ceiling exploded inward, and an enormous iron club smashed into the floor where Luffy had been standing a second before. He'd moved with remarkable speed, pulling Kobe with him. "Who's the most beautiful woman on the seas, Kobe?" a harsh female voice demanded as dust settled around the massive form of Alvida. "Why you are, Lady Alvida," Kobe stammered automatically. Luffy tilted his head, examining the large woman with the club. "That's Alvida. But you said she was beautiful." "She's just a fat old hag." The room went dead silent. Kobe's face turned white. Alvida's pirates gasped. Alvida's face contorted with rage. "You brat." She swung her massive club directly at Luffy's head. It connected with a solid thunk, and then froze solid, ice spreading rapidly from the point of impact until her entire weapon was encased in thick frost. "That's cold," she yelped, dropping the suddenly freezing club. Luffy hadn't moved an inch, his head momentarily transformed into ice at the impact point before reverting to normal. He grinned. My turn. He extended his arm, which transformed into a gleaming ice blade. Ice Saber. With a single slash, he cut through Alvida's club as she tried to pick it up again, the frozen metal shattering like glass. The pirates backed away in terror as ice spread across the deck beneath Luffy's feet. You have a devil fruit power, Alvida realized, taking a step back. Yep. The Hie Hie no Mi. Luffy crossed his arms. I can create and control ice, and I'm made of it too. Pretty cool, right? Kobe watched in awe as Luffy casually faced down the pirate who terrorized him for years. Something stirred in his chest, courage, maybe. Lady Alvida, he shouted suddenly. You're not the most beautiful woman on the seas. You're the ugliest, meanest pirate around, and I'm leaving to join the Marines. Alvida's face twisted with rage. You're dead. As she lunged for Kobe, Luffy stepped between them. His body transformed completely into ice, glittering in the sunlight streaming through the broken ceiling. Ice hammer. His fist expanded, forming a massive ice maul that slammed into Alvida's midsection. The impact sent her flying through the ship's hull and out into the open water with a tremendous splash. Luffy turned to the remaining pirates, his body returning to normal. Got a boat I can borrow? Kobe and I are leaving. None of the pirates argued. As they sailed away in a small boat, Kobe stared at Luffy with newfound respect. That was amazing. You didn't even hesitate to fight her. Luffy shrugged, leaning back with his hands behind his head. She was in our way. Besides, she was hurting you, and I don't like bullies. Where are we headed now? Kobe asked. I need to build a crew, Luffy replied, adjusting his straw hat. I heard there's a strong swordsman being held at the marine base in Shell Town. Roronoa Zoro. Kobe nearly fell overboard. Zoro. The pirate hunter. He's a demon. They say he's the most dangerous man in the East Blue. Luffy's eyes sparkled. Perfect. I want him on my crew. He's not a pirate. He captures them. Don't care. If he's strong, I want him. Luffy grinned, creating a small ice sculpture of a ship in his palm. A pirate crew needs strong people. The journey to Shell Town took 3 days. During that time, Kobe witnessed more of Luffy's abilities. He could freeze the water around their boat to create ice flows when they needed to rest. He caught fish by flash freezing small areas of the sea. At night, he generated just enough cold to preserve their food without making Kobe uncomfortable. When they finally arrived at Shell Town, Luffy stretched lazily as they tied their boat at the dock. Finally. Let's go find this Zoro guy. The town itself seemed tense, people flinching at the mere mention of either Zoro or Captain Morgan, the Marine base commander. Something's wrong here, Kobe observed as they walked toward the base. These people seem afraid of the Marines. That's not right. Luffy nodded. The Marines in Fusha village were okay, but Gramps always said some abused their power. They reached the Marine base, a towering structure with high walls. Curious, Luffy climbed up to peek over the perimeter wall, and immediately spotted a man tied to a cross-shaped post in the yard. Is that him? He asked Kobe, who struggled up beside him. The man wore a dark bandana over green hair, had 3 swords at his waist, and was bound tightly to the post under the blazing sun. Despite his circumstances, his posture remained defiant. That's him. Kobe confirmed. Roronoa Zoro, the pirate hunter. Before they could discuss further, a ladder propped against the wall beside them, and a small girl climbed up. She shushed them, then climbed over, carrying a small package. Hey, what's she doing? Luffy watched as the girl ran to Zoro and offered him what appeared to be rice balls. To their surprise, Zoro refused the food, seeming to warn the girl about something. Moments later, the base gates opened and a scrawny blonde man strutted out, flanked by Marines. "That's Helmeppo, Captain Morgan's son," someone whispered behind them. They watched in horror as Helmeppo knocked the rice balls to the ground, stomped on them, and ordered a Marine to throw the little girl over the wall. Without thinking, Luffy created an ice slide that caught her mid-air, letting her slide safely to the ground. "You okay?" he asked the crying child. She nodded, explaining how Zoro had been imprisoned for defending her family's restaurant from Helmeppo's wild wolf. "He made a deal," she explained. "If he survives 1 month tied up without food, Helmeppo will let him go and leave our town alone. It's been 3 weeks already." Luffy's expression hardened. "Wait here." He vaulted over the wall, landing in front of Zoro with a light crunch as ice formed briefly under his feet. Zoro looked up, eyes narrowed. "Who the hell are you?" "Monkey D. Luffy. I'm going to be king of the pirates." He crossed his arms. "You're Zoro, right? Join my crew." Zoro stared at him. "You're a pirate. Beat it." "I'm not interested. I heard you're strong." "Stronger than you, probably." Luffy grinned. "Wanna bet? If I get you out of here, you join my crew." Zoro snorted. "I have a deal with that idiot's son. 1 more week and I'm free." "He's not planning to keep that promise," Luffy said, recalling what he'd overheard Helmeppo bragging about in town. "He's going to execute you tomorrow." Zoro's eyes widened, then narrowed dangerously. "That bastard. So, my offer stands. I free you, you join my crew." Before Zoro could answer, Marines surrounded them, rifles aimed. "Halt!" By order of Captain Morgan. A towering man with an axe for a right hand stepped forward, his metal jaw gleaming in the sunlight. "So you're the intruder. Planning to overthrow me with Roronoa Zoro, are you?" "Nah," Luffy replied casually. "Just recruiting him for my pirate crew." "Kill them both," Morgan ordered his men. The Marines hesitated, but raised their rifles. Zoro tensed against his bonds. "Fire!" Morgan commanded. Bullets tore through the air, and passed straight through Luffy, whose body transformed into crystalline ice on impact. Small holes opened in his torso, then immediately refilled with ice. "That tickled," Luffy remarked as the Marines stared in shock. "A devil fruit user." Morgan growled. "What power do you possess?" "I ate the Hie Hie no Mi," Luffy explained, ice forming around his fist. "I'm an ice man." He slammed his ice-encased fist into the ground, and a wave of frost shot across the yard, freezing the Marines' feet to the ground. They struggled uselessly as ice crept up their legs. "Kobe!" Luffy called. "Get Zoro's swords." Kobe, who had been watching from the wall, nodded and ran toward the base. Meanwhile, Helmeppo had arrived, and Luffy grabbed him by the collar. "You promised Zoro freedom if he survived a month, but you're planning to kill him anyway?" Helmeppo squirmed. I was joking. Of course I'll let him go." "Liar." Luffy's grip tightened, frost spreading across Helmeppo's expensive shirt. "Captain Morgan. Help." Helmeppo wailed. Morgan charged forward, axe hand raised. "I'll cleave you in half, brat." The axe descended, and shattered against Luffy's ice-transformed shoulder. Shards of metal flew everywhere as the temperature around Luffy plummeted. "That was rude," Luffy commented, his breath visible in the suddenly frigid air. He threw Helmeppo aside and faced Morgan directly. "You're supposed to protect people, not bully them." Morgan attacked again with his broken axe, but this time Luffy dodged. He moved with surprising speed for someone so seemingly carefree, appearing behind Morgan in an instant. Ice pistol. His fist, encased in a growing block of ice, slammed into Morgan's back, sending the Marine captain flying into the base wall with enough force to crack the stonework. Morgan struggled to his feet, rage contorting his features. You dare strike a Marine captain? I am Captain Morgan. I don't care who you are, Luffy replied, frost spreading from his feet in an expanding circle. You hurt these people, and that makes you the bad guy. Kobe returned, carrying Zoro's 3 swords. Luffy took them and approached the bound swordsman. Last chance. Join my crew, and I'll cut you loose. Zoro looked from his swords to Morgan, who was charging again, then to the Marines still struggling against their frozen bonds. Fine, he growled. I'd rather be a pirate than die here. But I have my own dream, to become the world's greatest swordsman. If you ever get in the way of that dream, I'll cut you down. Luffy grinned. The king of the pirates wouldn't settle for anything less than the best swordsman. Deal. He froze the ropes binding Zoro, making them brittle enough to shatter with a touch. Zoro grabbed his swords, immediately tying his bandana around his head. Morgan reached them, swinging wildly. Die, pirates. Zoro intercepted the attack with all 3 swords, one in each hand and one clenched between his teeth. With a powerful twist, he disarmed Morgan completely. I promise to join this crew, Zoro said around the sword in his mouth. So attacking my captain is a bad move. Luffy laughed and stepped forward. Let me finish this. His arm transformed into a massive ice hammer. Ice mallet. The blow connected with Morgan's chest, sending him crashing through the base wall and deep into the building. When the dust settled, the Marine captain lay unconscious in the rubble. The remaining Marines stared in shock, then, to everyone's surprise, broke into cheers. Captain Morgan has fallen. We're free. As Luffy released his ice hold on them, Zoro suddenly collapsed. 3 weeks without food, he muttered. I might need a meal before we head out. At the small restaurant owned by the little girl's mother, Zoro watched in amazement as Luffy devoured plate after plate of food. Where does it all go? He wondered aloud. Luffy patted his stomach. I burn a lot of energy using my powers. Making ice takes heat from my body, so I need to refuel. About those powers, Zoro said between bites of his own meal. You ate a devil fruit, right? I've heard stories but never seen one in action. The Hie Hie no Mi, Luffy confirmed. It's a Logia type. I can create and control ice, and turn my body into it too. Can't swim anymore though, which sucks. That's an insanely powerful ability, Zoro remarked. Why recruit me if you're already that strong? Luffy shrugged. Being Pirate King isn't a solo job. I need a crew of the best. Besides, I can't use swords. That's your thing. Kobe, who had been quietly eating, looked up. I should report to the Marines here. With Captain Morgan gone, they might accept me as a recruit. Go for it, Luffy encouraged. Chase your dream, just like we are. As they prepared to leave town, the new ranking Marine officer approached them at the harbor. You helped us by defeating Morgan, he admitted, but you're still pirates. The next time we meet, we'll have to arrest you. Luffy grinned. Fair enough. Take care of Kobe, he wants to be a great Marine. The officer looked at Kobe with interest. Is that so? There's just one problem, Luffy added. He used to sail with Alvida the pirate. Not by choice, but still. Kobe stared at Luffy in shock, then realized what he was doing, creating distance between them to protect Kobe's dream. Tears welled in his eyes. To prove his dedication, Kobe lunged at Luffy, throwing a punch that landed squarely on his cheek. To everyone's surprise, Luffy allowed the hit, not transforming into ice to avoid it. That's enough, the Marine officer intervened. We'll take the boy. Now leave our town, pirates. As their small boat pulled away from Shell Town, Zoro leaned against the mast. That was nice of you, helping the kid like that. He has a dream, Luffy replied simply, creating a small ice sculpture of the marine base in his palm before letting it melt. Everyone deserves a chance to chase their dream. Their journey continued across the East Blue, the unlikely pair of the ice-powered pirate and the three-sword swordsman. Their next stop brought them to a small island with a single village. "We need a bigger boat," Zoro commented as they docked. "And supplies." "And a navigator," Luffy added. "I'm terrible with directions." "Look who's talking," Zoro muttered. As they explored the seemingly deserted village, Luffy sensed movement, pirates, chasing someone down the street. Without hesitation, he stepped into their path, coming face to face with a young woman with short orange hair. She carried a rolled map and was being pursued by three rough-looking men. "Boss!" "She went this way," one shouted, then stopped short at the sight of Luffy and Zoro. The woman ducked behind Luffy. "Oh, thank goodness. You saved me," she exclaimed with obviously fake relief. "These pirates have been after me." Luffy raised an eyebrow but played along. "These guys bothering you?" "That girl stole our map of the Grand Line," one pirate accused. "She's working for Buggy the Clown." "I am not," she protested. "I just happened to find this map." The pirates drew their swords. "Hand her over." Luffy sighed, placing a hand on the ground. "Ice floor." Instantly, the street beneath the pirates turned to slick ice. They slipped and slid, unable to maintain their balance, crashing into each other and nearby buildings. While they struggled, the orange-haired woman stared at Luffy in shock. What did you just do?" "Devil fruit," Luffy explained casually. "I'm an ice man. I'm Luffy, by the way. This is Zoro. We're pirates." The woman took a step back. "Pirates? I hate pirates. They're all the same, thieves and murderers." "We're not like that," Luffy protested. "I'm going to be king of the pirates." Despite her wariness, the woman introduced herself as Nami. "I'm a thief who only steals from pirates. And I'm the best navigator you'll ever meet." Luffy's eyes lit up. "Perfect. Join my crew." "No way." Nami refused immediately. "I'd never be a pirate." Their argument was interrupted when more of Buggy's pirates arrived, forcing them to flee. Nami led them to an empty house where she explained the situation. "Buggy the Clown has taken over this town. He has a devil fruit power too, the Barabara no Mi. He can separate his body parts and they float around." "Sounds weird," Luffy commented. "Says the human popsicle," Zoro muttered. Nami continued, "I stole his map of the Grand Line. I need to collect 100 million berries to buy a certain village, and valuable maps are part of my plan." "What village?" Luffy asked. Nami's expression darkened. "None of your business." She studied Luffy thoughtfully. "Actually, maybe we can help each other. With your ice powers, we could take Buggy's treasure easily." "I'm not interested in stealing," Luffy replied. "But I'll help you if Buggy's hurting people." Their discussion was cut short when cannon fire suddenly rocked the town. Looking out the window, they saw buildings being destroyed by Buggy's Buggy Balls, special cannonballs with explosive power. "He's destroying the town." Nami gasped. "Just because the villagers won't give him tribute." That was enough for Luffy. "Let's go. I'm going to freeze that clown solid." They made their way to Buggy's base, the local tavern he'd taken over. On the roof, the clown pirate and his crew were having a party while terrorizing the town. "Hey, Big Nose!" Luffy shouted up at them. "Stop wrecking this place." Silence fell. Then, "Who are you calling Big Nose?" Buggy appeared at the edge of the roof, his painted face contorted with rage. His nose was indeed quite large and round. "I'm Monkey D. Luffy, future king of the pirates." "You? King of the pirates?" Buggy cackled. "That's my title, you brat. Men! Fire the buggy ball at these fools. His crew wheeled a cannon to the edge of the roof, aiming directly at Luffy, Zoro, and Nami. Nami backed away. We should run, she urged. Luffy stood his ground. Nah. I got this. The cannon fired with a deafening boom, the special cannonball hurtling toward them with a trail of smoke. Zoro, Nami, get back, Luffy warned, stepping forward. He took a deep breath, then thrust both hands out. Ice wall. A massive barrier of ice erupted from the ground just as the buggy ball reached them. The cannonball struck the ice with tremendous force, and froze solid on contact before falling harmlessly to the ground. What the hell? Buggy shouted. He stopped my special buggy ball. My turn, Luffy said, cracking his knuckles as frost gathered around his fingers. He placed both hands on the ground. Ice spikes. Jagged ice formations shot upward from the street, climbing the building's walls like crystalline vines, providing a path straight to the roof. Luffy ran up the ice path with remarkable agility, reaching Buggy's level in seconds. A devil fruit user, Buggy realized, backing away slightly. What kind of power is this? I ate the Hie Hie no Mi, Luffy explained, ice forming around his arms. I control ice. A Logia type, Buggy muttered. Rare indeed. But my Bara Bara no Mi will still cut you to pieces. Bara Bara Festival. Buggy's body separated into dozens of floating pieces, hands, feet, limbs, and his head all flying independently. He launched his detached hands, each holding a knife, at Luffy from multiple angles. The knife struck Luffy's body, and passed through as he transformed into ice, leaving momentary holes that instantly refilled. That won't work on me, Luffy said, grabbing one of Buggy's floating hands and freezing it solid. I'm not a solid target. Buggy yelped as cold spread up his disconnected arm. Let go, you frozen freak. Meanwhile, Zoro had climbed the ice path and engaged Buggy's first mate, Kabeji, who fought on a unicycle while wielding a sword. Despite Kabeji's dirty tactics, breathing fire and throwing tops, Zoro's three-sword style proved superior. Below, Nami seized the opportunity to sneak into Buggy's base and find his treasure. Luffy faced Buggy directly, dodging the clown's separated parts. Your fight is with me, Big Nose. Stop calling me that. Buggy roared, sending all his parts flying at Luffy at once. This time, Luffy didn't transform. Instead, he coated his fist in thick ice. Ice knuckle. The punch connected with Buggy's floating torso, freezing it instantly. His separated parts suddenly slowed, losing coordination. My body. Buggy gasped, his floating head watching in horror as ice spread across his frozen torso. Can't control your parts well when your core is frozen, huh? Luffy observed. He grabbed Buggy's floating head. Game over, clown. With a powerful throw, he sent Buggy's head flying far beyond the town limits, his frozen body parts reluctantly following their master. Curse you, Straw Hat. Buggy's voice faded as he disappeared into the distance. As the dust settled, Nami emerged from the tavern with bags of treasure. Got it. 10 million berries, at least. The villagers, seeing Buggy's defeat, emerged from hiding and thanked their saviors. They offered food, supplies, and a slightly larger boat to continue their journey. As they prepared to depart, Luffy turned to Nami again. So, joining my crew now? I told you, I hate pirates, she insisted, but her tone had softened. But I suppose we could form a temporary partnership. You need a navigator, and I need protection while I collect my 100 million berries. Luffy grinned. Works for me. Welcome aboard, temporary navigator. As their new boat sailed away from the liberated town, news of their victory spread. In a marine office somewhere in the East Blue, a report landed on a desk. Wanted, Monkey D, Luffy, Ice Fist, 30 million berries. The bounty poster showed Luffy's grinning face beneath his straw hat, ice crystals floating around him. The officer stared at the image with narrowed eyes. Another devil fruit user, and a Logia at that, he muttered. This could be trouble. Back on their boat, Luffy stood at the bow, gazing at the horizon. The Hie Hie Nomi had changed his life forever, taking away his ability to swim but giving him power beyond imagination. The road to becoming king of the pirates would be challenging, but with each new crewmate, the dream grew more real. He created a small ice replica of a pirate flag in his palm, a skull wearing a straw hat, with crossed bones beneath it. Soon, that symbol would fly from a real ship, striking both fear and wonder into the hearts of all who saw it. Just you wait, Shanks, he whispered to the wind. I'm on my way. Chapter 2, Frozen Ambitions. The boat sliced through the waves, salty spray catching the morning sun. Luffy sat cross-legged on the bow, a small ice sculpture taking shape between his palms. Behind him, Zoro snored against the mast while Nami charted their course on a map spread across her knees. We need more crew members, Luffy declared, crushing the ice sculpture into snow and letting it drift away on the breeze. Nami glanced up. And a bigger ship. This thing barely fits the three of us. And food, Zoro added without opening his eyes. We're almost out. Luffy flopped backward, staring at the clouds. I'm thinking, a cook, definitely. And maybe a sniper or a musician. A musician? Nami rolled her eyes. How about someone useful first? Music is useful. Luffy protested. Pirates sing, right? Their bickering stopped when Nami spotted land on the horizon. There's an island coming up, Syrup Village, according to my charts. We can resupply there. And maybe find new crew members. Luffy jumped to his feet, frost spreading briefly across the deck in his excitement. Watch it. Nami snapped as ice crystals touched her map. You're going to ruin my charts. Luffy reined in his powers with a sheepish grin. Sorry. Still working on that. The island grew larger as they approached, gentle slopes covered in vegetation with a small village nestled on the coast. They pulled into a secluded cove rather than the main harbor. Why not dock at the village? Zoro asked as they secured the boat. Small islands like this sometimes have marine outposts, Nami explained. Better not advertise our arrival. They climbed a steep path up the cliffside. Just as they reached the top, a voice shouted from the bushes. Halt! I am the great guardian of this village. I command an army of 80 million men. Turn back now, pirates. Luffy, Zoro, and Nami exchanged glances. That's the worst lie I've ever heard, Nami muttered. Suddenly, small flags popped up from the bushes, waving back and forth as if operated by multiple people. A skinny young man with a long nose stepped out, aiming a slingshot at them. I'm not kidding. Leave now or face my wrath. I, Captain Usopp, will show no mercy. Luffy tilted his head. You're Captain Usopp. That's right. Tremble before, your dad is Yasopp, right? Luffy interrupted. Usopp nearly dropped his slingshot. You know my father. He's on Shanks' crew. The red-haired pirates. He used to talk about you all the time. The hostility vanished from Usopp's face, replaced with eager curiosity. My dad talked about me. Really? What did he say? As Luffy shared stories about Yasopp's legendary marksmanship and frequent tales about his son, Usopp led them to a small restaurant in the village. They ordered food while Usopp listened intently, pride evident on his face. So you actually met red-haired Shanks, Usopp marveled. That's amazing. I've been telling stories about being a brave warrior of the sea, but you're actually living the adventure. I'm going to be king of the pirates, Luffy said between mouthfuls. Shanks gave me this hat to return when I've achieved my dream. King of the pirates? Usopp's eyes widened. You're actually searching for the One Piece? Yep. We need a bigger crew though, and a real ship. Usopp puffed out his chest. Well, I happen to be a captain myself. The feared Captain Usopp, with 8,000 followers. Wasn't it 80 million earlier? Nami pointed out dryly. Usopp deflated. Okay, so I exaggerated a bit. It's actually just me and 3 kids playing pirates. You're a sniper like your dad, right? Luffy asked, pointing to Usopp's slingshot. The best in the East Blue. Usopp boasted, then added more honestly, well, probably not. But I'm pretty good. Luffy grinned. Perfect. Join my crew. Just like that. Just like that. Usopp hesitated. I don't know. I've been living here, telling stories, but actually leaving. Before he could finish, 3 children burst into the restaurant. Captain Usopp. You didn't come to the shore today, one said. Did something happen? We were waiting for today's adventure story, another added. Usopp introduced the children, Carrot, Pepper, and Onion, to Luffy and his crew. These pirates know my father. While the children bombarded Luffy with questions about being a real pirate, Usopp checked his watch and excused himself. I've got an important daily appointment. Catch you later. Where's he going? Zoro asked the kids. Probably to the mansion, Onion replied. To visit Lady Kaya. According to the children, Kaya was a wealthy young woman who had been bedridden with illness since her parents died a year ago. Usopp visited her every day to tell her stories about his made-up adventures. Her butler, Klahadore, always tries to drive Usopp away, Carrot explained. He says Usopp is a bad influence. Luffy stood up suddenly. Let's go meet her. Maybe she can help us get a ship. The children led them through the village to a large mansion surrounded by tall gates. Rather than entering properly, they snuck around to the back where a large tree grew close to one of the windows. Usopp usually climbs up there, Pepper pointed. Luffy grinned. I've got a better idea. Watch this. He placed his hand on the ground, concentrating. Ice ladder. Frost spread from his palm, forming into a perfectly shaped ladder of ice that reached all the way up to the window. The children stared in amazement. Whoa! He made ice appear. How did you do that? Are you a magician? Luffy laughed. I ate a devil fruit, the Hie Hie no Mi. I can create and control ice. They climbed the ice ladder to find Usopp sitting on a branch outside an open window, telling stories to a pale, blonde girl in a nightgown, Kaya. Both looked startled when Luffy's head popped up. Hi. You must be Kaya. I'm Monkey D. Luffy, future king of the pirates. What are you doing here? Usopp demanded. And how did you? He spotted the ice ladder and his jaw dropped. We need a ship, Luffy explained, climbing onto the branch. Heard you might be able to help. Before Kaya could respond, a stern voice called from below. What is the meaning of this? A thin man with slick back hair and glasses stood in the garden, glaring up at them with obvious displeasure. Klahadore. Kaya sighed. More ruffians associating with Usopp, I see, the butler said coldly. Miss Kaya, you know you shouldn't be entertaining this trash. Don't talk about Usopp like that. Kaya protested. Klahadore pushed his glasses up with the palm of his hand in a peculiar manner. He's nothing but the son of a filthy pirate. Pirates bring only pain and suffering, they're the scum of the earth. Usopp's face flushed with anger. Say what you want about me, but don't insult my father. Why not? It's the truth. You come from trash, and trash is all you'll ever be. Luffy's temperature dropped noticeably, frost forming on the branch where he sat. That's going too far. Stay out of this, Usopp told him. This is between me and him. The argument escalated until Usopp punched Klahadore in the face, sending the butler sprawling. "Get out!" Klahadore ordered as he got to his feet. "All of you. Miss Kaya needs rest, not the company of violent pirates." They had no choice but to leave. Usopp stormed off alone to cool down, while Luffy and the others returned to the village. "That butler has a serious attitude problem," Nami remarked. "Something about him seems off," Zoro added. "Did you notice how he pushed up his glasses? With his palm instead of his fingers," Luffy nodded. "Weird, right?" Later, they found Usopp sitting on a cliff overlooking the sea. "Sorry about earlier," he said. "Klahadore always gets under my skin." "He was being a jerk," Luffy agreed, sitting beside him. "The thing is, I don't know if I can leave this village," Usopp admitted. "Kaya's been sick since her parents died. My stories are the only thing that makes her smile. Without me." Their conversation was interrupted by voices from the beach below. Looking down, they spotted Klahadore meeting with a strange, heart-shaped man in odd clothing. "Is that?" Nami started. "Shoo." Usopp hushed, straining to hear. "Everything is ready, Captain Kuro," the heart-shaped man was saying. "Don't call me that, Django," Klahadore, apparently Kuro, hissed. "That name is dead." "Sorry. But the plan is set. Tomorrow morning, the Black Cat pirates will attack the village. I'll hypnotize the girl to write her will, leaving everything to you, then we'll kill her." "Perfect," Kuro smiled coldly. "After 3 years posing as that sickening butler, I'll finally have my reward. The peace and fortune I deserve." Usopp's face turned pale. "Klahadore is Captain Kuro? But he was captured and executed years ago." "Who's Captain Kuro?" Luffy asked. "One of the most dangerous pirates in the East Blue," Nami explained quietly. "Known for his cunning and brutality. They called him Kuro of 1,000 plans because his schemes never failed." "He's planning to kill Kaya," Usopp whispered, horrified. Luffy stood, ice forming around his fists. "Not if we stop him." Unfortunately, a small rock dislodged by his movement tumbled down the cliff, alerting the conspirators to their presence. "Someone's up there." Django pointed. "We've been spotted." Usopp yelped, backing away from the edge. "Go warn the village," Luffy told him. "We'll handle these guys." Usopp hesitated, then nodded and sprinted toward the village while Luffy, Zoro, and Nami slid down the cliff to confront the pirates. Well, Kuro adjusted his glasses with his palm. "Eavesdropping is rude." "So is planning to murder someone," Zoro replied, hand on his swords. Kuro's demeanor changed instantly, from proper butler to cold-blooded pirate. "You're meddling in affairs beyond your understanding. Django, deal with them." The hypnotist pulled out a circular pendant. "Watch closely as it swings back and forth. When I say, Django, you'll fall asleep. Don't look at it." Nami warned, but Luffy was already staring directly at the pendant. 1, 2, Django. Luffy instantly collapsed, seemingly unconscious. Zoro and Nami had averted their eyes in time. "How disappointing," Kuro sighed. "I expected more from pirates bold enough to challenge me." As Django advanced toward Zoro and Nami, Luffy suddenly sat up, completely fine. "That was weird. I felt sleepy for a second." "Impossible." Django gasped. "You should be unconscious." Luffy grinned. "I lowered my body temperature when I realized what was happening. Hard to hypnotize someone whose brain is partially frozen." Kuro's eyes narrowed. "A devil fruit user, I presume." "The Hie Hie know me," Luffy confirmed, frost spreading from his feet across the sand. "I'm an ice man." For the first time, Kuro looked genuinely concerned. "A Logia type." "Django, change of plans. Return to the ship and prepare the crew for tomorrow. I'll handle these 3 myself." But Captain, go. As Django fled, Kuro produced a pair of gloves fitted with long blades at each finger, his cat claws, the signature weapon that had claimed countless lives. I retired from piracy for peace and quiet, he said, slipping on the gloves. I despise having my plans disrupted. Too bad, Luffy cracked his knuckles. Your plan's about to get frozen solid. Kuro vanished, literally disappeared from view, only to reappear behind Nami, claws raised. But Zoro intercepted, blocking the attack with his swords. He's fast, Zoro grunted, struggling against Kuro's strength. Silent step, Kuro explained. I can move faster than the eye can track. He disappeared again, this time attacking from multiple angles so quickly it seemed like he was in several places at once. Zoro defended as best he could, but received several cuts across his arms and chest. Luffy tracked the movements, not with his eyes, but by sensing the disturbances in the air. As Kuro passed, the temperature shifted slightly. Luffy waited for the right moment, then thrust his hand out. Ice floor. The entire beach instantly froze into a sheet of slick ice. Kuro's next step landed on the frozen surface, causing him to slip mid-attack and crash into a boulder. Speed is useless if you can't control it, Luffy observed. Kuro rose slowly, adjusting his now cracked glasses. Clever. But I don't need to touch you to kill you. He launched into another flurry of silent step attacks, moving even faster than before. This time, he targeted Zoro and Nami exclusively, avoiding the ice Luffy created. Stop hiding and fight me directly. Luffy challenged. Why would I? Kuro's voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. A true pirate uses every advantage. A scream from Nami drew Luffy's attention, she'd received a slash across her arm. Zoro was down on one knee, multiple cuts bleeding freely. Luffy closed his eyes, concentrating. The air around him grew colder and colder until everyone's breath became visible clouds. Ice crystals formed in the air itself. What's he doing? Nami wondered, clutching her wounded arm. Zoro managed a grin. Something interesting, I bet. Luffy's eyes snapped open. Ice field. A pulse of freezing energy expanded from his body in all directions. Every droplet of moisture in the air instantly crystallized, creating a sparkling cloud that revealed Kuro's position as he moved through it. There you are. Luffy launched forward, ice forming around his fist. Ice knuckle. The blow connected with Kuro's chest, sending him flying backward into the cliffside. Ice spread from the impact point, creeping across Kuro's body. What is this? Kuro struggled against the spreading frost. I can't move. You're being flash frozen, Luffy explained, approaching slowly. The moisture in your clothes, your skin, it's all turning to ice. Kuro slashed desperately with his claws, breaking free of some ice only for more to form. You, what are you? I'm Monkey D, Luffy. The man who's going to be king of the pirates. With a final lunge, Luffy drove an ice-coated fist into Kuro's face, shattering his glasses and embedding him deeper into the frozen cliffside. And kings don't like people who threaten their friends. When Usopp reached the village, he shouted warnings about the impending pirate attack, but no one believed him. It's just another of his lies, the villagers said, laughing. Pirates attacking? How creative. I'm serious this time. Usopp insisted. Captain Kuro is alive. He's planning to attack tomorrow morning. The boy who cried wolf, one elder shook his head. When will you grow up, Usopp? Dejected, Usopp realized no one would believe him after years of false alarms. There was only one option, he would defend the village himself. He returned to the north shore where the Black Cat pirates would land. To his surprise, Luffy, Zoro, and Nami were waiting for him. Kuro's frozen solid, Luffy reported. The hypnotist guy escaped though. The village won't believe me, Usopp explained. They think it's just another lie. So we protect them without them knowing, Zoro shrugged. Usopp nodded gratefully. There are only 2 slopes where ships can land on this island. If we guard those, we can stop the pirates before they reach the village. They prepared defenses, Usopp spreading oil on one slope to make it too slippery to climb, while Luffy created ice barriers on the other. They settled in to wait for the dawn attack. But as the first light broke over the horizon, they realized their mistake. No pirates had arrived. We're at the north shore, Nami suddenly realized, checking her map. What if they're attacking from the south? Usopp's face went pale. That's where we spread the oil. No one's guarding it. They raced across the island, but the path was long. Usopp, knowing a shortcut, pulled ahead. I'll slow them down. Just hurry. When Luffy, Zoro, and Nami finally arrived at the south shore, they found Usopp badly beaten but still standing, facing down dozens of pirates. You're alive! Nami exclaimed. Barely, Usopp managed through swollen lips. They've been trying to get past me for 10 minutes. The Black Cat pirates, led by Django, looked surprised at the reinforcements. More of them. And where's Captain Kuro? He should have eliminated you by now. He's chilling out, Luffy replied with a grin. Get it? Because I froze him solid. You defeated Captain Kuro? Django stammered in disbelief. Yep. And you guys are next. The pirates charged en masse. Zoro engaged several with his 3-sword style, while Nami used her staff to protect the injured Usopp. Luffy faced Django directly. The hypnotist swung his pendant. 1, 2, Django. You'll become weak as a kitten. This time, Luffy let the hypnosis take effect, or appeared to. He slumped forward, arms hanging limply. Ha! Got you. Django crowed. Now, crew. 1, 2, Django. You'll all become super strong and invincible. The pirates underwent a startling transformation, muscles bulging as they attacked with renewed vigor. Even Zoro struggled against their enhanced strength. Luffy! Nami called. Snap out of it. Suddenly, Luffy looked up, a mischievous grin on his face. Psyche. Just wanted to see what they'd do. You faked being hypnotized. Django spluttered. Sure did. Now it's my turn. Luffy slammed his fists together, ice crystals exploding outward. Ice storm. He spun rapidly, generating a freezing whirlwind that engulfed the charging pirates. One by one, they froze in place, transformed into ice statues mid-attack. My crew! Django cried, backing away. What have you done? Relax, they're not dead, Luffy assured him. Just really, really cold. They'll thaw out, eventually. Django pulled out his chakram, sharp-edged rings he used as throwing weapons. I won't go down so easily. He hurled the rings at blinding speed. Luffy didn't dodge, instead, the chakram passed harmlessly through his ice-transformed body. That tickled, Luffy commented, advancing toward the now terrified hypnotist. Stay back. Django frantically swung his pendant. 1, 2, Jan, an ice-coated fist connected with his jaw before he could complete the hypnosis. Too slow, Luffy said as Django crumpled unconscious. With the immediate threat neutralized, they turned their attention to Usopp's injuries. You fought them all by yourself for that long? Zoro asked, impressed despite himself. Usopp managed a pained smile. I had to protect the village, even if they don't believe me. That's what real bravery is, Luffy said, helping him stand. Not being fearless, but facing your fears anyway. When they returned to the village, they discovered the frozen Kuro had been found and turned over to the Marines. The villagers, seeing Usopp's injuries, finally realized he'd been telling the truth. Kaya, who had left her bed for the first time in months to search for Klahadore, was shocked to learn his true identity. "He was going to kill me," she whispered, hands trembling. And Usopp tried to warn everyone, but no one believed him. Despite his injuries, Usopp decided not to reveal the full story to the villagers. "They don't need to know how close they came to disaster," he told Luffy. "Some truths are better left untold." The next day, as Luffy's group prepared to leave, Kaya approached them at the shore. "I have something for you," she said, pointing to a ship anchored nearby. "As a thank you for saving the village, and me." The ship was small but beautiful, a caravel with a sheep's head figurehead. "I call her the Going Merry," Kaya explained. "My family's shipbuilders designed her. She's yours now." Luffy's eyes sparkled. "A real pirate ship. Thank you." As they loaded their supplies onto their new vessel, Usopp appeared with a massive backpack. "Well, I'm off to begin my life as a pirate," he announced. "Where's your crew?" Nami asked. "I'm starting alone. Maybe I'll gather nakama along the way, like you guys did." Luffy exchanged glances with Zoro and Nami, then grinned. "Or you could join us." Usopp looked stunned. "Really? You want me on your crew?" "Of course. You're brave, you're a great sniper, and you're already our friend. What do you say?" "Yes." Usopp jumped in the air. "But on one condition, I get to be captain." "Nice try," Luffy laughed. "You can be our sniper." "And professional liar," Zoro added with a smirk. "Brave warrior of the sea," Usopp corrected, puffing out his chest. With their new ship and crewmate, the Straw Hat Pirates set sail once more. The Going Merry proved to be a comfortable vessel with a proper kitchen, sleeping quarters, and enough space for them all to move freely. Luffy created a small ice sculpture of the ship in his palm. The perfect vessel for the future pirate king. Their journey led them to the floating restaurant Baratai, a ship-shaped establishment famous throughout the East Blue for its exceptional cuisine. Luffy had one goal in mind, recruiting a cook. Their arrival, however, coincided with that of the Marine Lieutenant, Iron Fist, Full Body, who was dining with a date. The lieutenant recognized Luffy from his newly issued bounty poster. "Ice Fist, Luffy, worth 30 million berries," Full Body announced, interrupting his date to approach their table. "I didn't expect to encounter a rising pirate during my lunch. I'm famous already." Luffy grinned. "Cool. Your capture will be a fine addition to my record," Full Body continued. "Men, arrest these pirates." Before his marines could act, a blonde waiter intervened, placing himself between Full Body and Luffy's table. "Pardon me, but we don't allow fighting in the restaurant," the waiter said smoothly. "It disturbs the other customers." "Stand aside, civilian," Full Body ordered. "This is marine business." The waiter's visible eye narrowed. "And this is a restaurant. Finish your meal, then conduct your business elsewhere." Full Body's face reddened. "How dare you? Do you know who I am?" "A customer who's being disruptive," the waiter replied coolly. He turned to Luffy's table with a completely different demeanor, hearts practically forming in his eye as he spotted Nami. "And what can I get for this lovely lady?" "Sanji. Stop flirting and get back to work," a gruff voice called from the kitchen. The confrontation escalated when Full Body, insulted by the waiter's dismissal, deliberately spilled his soup and complained about a bug in it. Sanji's reaction was swift and violent. He beat the Marine lieutenant soundly, dragging him outside despite protests from the restaurant's other staff. "Well, he's interesting," Zoro remarked, watching the scene unfold. "And he can fight," Luffy added. "I want him on our crew." Their meal was interrupted again when a starving pirate named Jin entered the restaurant, begging for food. When he couldn't pay, the other chefs kicked him out, but Sanji secretly brought him a full meal anyway. "A cook who refuses to let anyone starve," Luffy observed, watching through a window. "Definitely joining my crew." Luffy approached Sanji directly with his proposal, only to be flatly rejected. "I can't leave the Baratai," Sanji explained. "I owe the old man my life." The old man was Zeph, the owner and head chef of the Baratai, who had apparently saved Sanji's life years ago. Despite Luffy's persistence, Sanji remained firm in his refusal. The situation changed dramatically when Jin returned, this time with his captain, the infamous Don Krieg, whose massive galleon had been destroyed in the Grand Line. Krieg, once considered the strongest pirate in the East Blue, now stood half-starved in the Baradi's dining room, begging for food for his dying crew. Despite warnings, Sanji provided meals for all 100 of Krieg's men. Once fed, however, Krieg revealed his true intention, to take the Baratai as his new flagship. "This ship is sturdy enough to return to the Grand Line," Krieg declared. "I'll be taking it, along with that brat's bounty." He pointed directly at Luffy, who was casually finishing his dessert. 30 million berries for a rookie is impressive. "What makes you so special, Ice Fist?" Luffy swallowed his last bite. "I ate the Hie Hie no Mi. I'm an ice man." A Logia type, Krieg's eyes widened slightly. "Rare indeed. All the more reason to eliminate you before you become a genuine threat." Too late for that, Luffy stood, ice forming around his fists. The battle erupted across the floating restaurant. Krieg's revitalized crew attacked en masse, while the chefs of the Baratai defended their home with cooking implements that doubled as weapons. Zoro, Usopp, and Nami helped evacuate customers, while Luffy confronted Krieg directly. "Your armor won't help against me," Luffy warned as Krieg donned his famous wood steel battle suit. "We'll see about that," Krieg replied, firing a barrage of small bombs from his battle gauntlets. Luffy transformed into ice, letting the explosions pass through his crystalline body. The bombs detonated behind him, damaging the restaurant. "Hey! Watch it!" Luffy shouted. "You're wrecking the place." "That's the idea," Krieg smirked. "If I can't have it, no one will." Luffy charged forward, his arm transforming into a massive ice hammer. Ice mallet. The blow connected with Krieg's armor, and to Luffy's surprise, didn't shatter it. The steel merely dented, with frost spreading across its surface. "Wood steel is the strongest in the world," Krieg boasted. "Your ice can't break it." "Then I'll just have to freeze you inside it," Luffy replied, placing both hands on the armor. Ice rapidly spread from his palms, covering Krieg's battle suit entirely. "What are you doing?" Krieg struggled as the ice thickened. "Metal conducts cold," Luffy explained. "Your fancy armor is about to become a freezer." The temperature of Krieg's suit plummeted as Luffy channeled more power into it. The pirate admiral began shivering uncontrollably, his movements slowing. Stop." Krieg stammered through chattering teeth. "Why, you'll freeze me to death." "Surrender then," Luffy demanded. Pride won out over common sense. Krieg triggered his final weapon, a massive spear that exploded on impact. The blast sent Luffy flying backward, breaking his concentration and the freezing effect. MH5. Krieg shouted, loading a special canister into his gauntlet. "Poison gas that kills instantly. Let's see your ice stop this." He fired the canister high into the air, where it would burst and spread deadly gas across the entire restaurant. Luffy looked up, then took a deep breath. Ice breath. He exhaled a blast of supercooled air directly at the canister. It froze solid before it could detonate, falling harmlessly into the sea with a splash. "Impossible." Krieg stared in disbelief. "Your toys don't work on me," Luffy declared, walking calmly toward the armored pirate. "Give up." "Never." Krieg swung his spear wildly. Luffy sidestepped the attack, then unleashed a flurry of ice-coated punches. Ice Gatling. The rapid impacts hammered Krieg's armor repeatedly, each blow dropping the temperature further until cracks appeared in the supposedly invulnerable steel. With a final punch, Luffy shattered the frozen armor completely, sending Krieg crashing unconscious to the deck. Metal gets brittle when it's cold enough, Luffy explained to the unconscious pirate. Science. As the dust settled, Sanji approached Luffy with newfound respect. That was impressive. You saved the restaurant. Join my crew, Luffy repeated his offer. Be our cook. Sanji hesitated, looking toward the kitchen where Zeph watched silently. The old chef gave a barely perceptible nod. I have a dream, Sanji said quietly. To find the All Blue, a legendary sea where fish from all the world's oceans gather. Perfect. Luffy grinned. I need crewmates with dreams. Before Sanji could respond, a new threat appeared on the horizon, a single man approaching on a small boat, cutting through the water with unnatural precision. Hawkeye's Mihawk, Zoro breathed, recognizing the figure. The world's greatest swordsman. Mihawk had apparently been responsible for destroying Krieg's fleet in the Grand Line and had followed the surviving ship to finish the job. His eyes, sharp as a hawk's, focused on Luffy. So you're the new Logia user making waves in the East Blue, Mihawk remarked. Interesting. Zoro stepped forward, drawing his 3 swords. I've been searching for you, Hawkeyes. I challenge you to a duel. Zoro, wait. Luffy called, but his swordsman had already engaged the master. The duel was painfully one-sided. Mihawk blocked Zoro's 3-sword style with a tiny knife, then drew his black blade, Yoru, to finish the fight. Zoro's 2 handheld swords shattered against it, and he received a deep slash across his chest. Remarkably, Zoro refused to retreat, turning to face Mihawk with arms spread, accepting whatever came next. What are you doing? Mihawk asked, genuinely curious. Scars on the back are a swordsman's shame, Zoro replied through the sword clenched in his teeth. Instead of killing him, Mihawk slashed Zoro across the chest, a wound deep enough to incapacitate but not to kill. I haven't found someone with such spirit in years, Mihawk commented as Zoro fell. Live and grow stronger, young swordsman. I'll wait for you at the top. Luffy, enraged at seeing his friend defeated, launched an attack. Ice Spear. His arm transformed into a jagged ice lance aimed directly at Mihawk's heart. To his shock, Mihawk simply touched the ice with his bare hand, and it shattered. Armament Haki, Mihawk explained calmly. Something you'll need to learn if you want to survive in the Grand Line. Luffy stared at his broken ice arm as it reformed. You touched me. No one can touch a Logia unless they possess Haki, Mihawk confirmed. Your ice powers won't protect you against everyone, boy. It was a sobering realization. Luffy had grown accustomed to physical attacks passing harmlessly through his body. The idea that some opponents could hit him regardless was troubling. I'll get stronger, Luffy vowed. Strong enough to protect my friends. Mihawk's stern face softened slightly. Good answer. He turned to Zoro, who was being tended to by Usopp and Nami. What is your name, swordsman? Roronoa Zoro, came the pained reply. I'll remember it. With that, Hawkeye's Mihawk departed as suddenly as he had arrived. As Sanji helped treat Zoro's wounds, the swordsman raised his remaining blade to Luffy. Captain. I swear I won't lose again. Not until I defeat him and become the greatest swordsman in the world. Is that okay with the king of the pirates? Luffy grinned through tears. Wouldn't have it any other way. The aftermath of the battle left the Baratai damaged but still floating. Krieg and his defeated crew were loaded onto boats and set adrift with minimal supplies. Zeph approached Sanji as the young cook helped repair the restaurant. Just go already, the old chef grumbled. Stop pretending you want to stay. But the restaurant, we managed before you came, we'll manage after you're gone. Zeph's gruff tone couldn't quite hide his affection. You have your own dream to chase, little eggplant. With Zeph's blessing, Sanji finally agreed to join Luffy's crew. He packed his knives, a few cooking implements, and his favorite cigarettes. If the food sucks even once, he warned as he boarded the Going Merry, I'm out. It won't, Luffy promised. You're the best cook in the East Blue. Their crew now consisted of 5 members, Luffy the captain, Zoro the swordsman, Nami the navigator, Usopp the sniper, and Sanji the cook. The Going Merry sailed away from the Baratai, heading toward their next destination, a place Nami had been unusually quiet about. Arlong Park, she finally admitted when pressed. We need to go to Arlong Park. The island of Konomi appeared peaceful from a distance, but as they approached Arlong Park, a fortress-like compound on the coast, the atmosphere changed. Armed fishmen patrolled the waters, and the nearby village of Kokoyashi seemed subdued, almost fearful. Arlong is a fishman pirate, Nami explained tensely. He's taken over this island and forces the villagers to pay tribute or be killed. Why are we here? Usopp asked nervously. Fishmen are supposed to be 10 times stronger than humans. Nami hesitated, then rolled up her sleeve to reveal a tattoo, Arlong's mark. Because this is my home. And Arlong killed the person I loved most. She explained how Arlong had murdered her mother, Belmere, when Nami was just a child. He'd forced Nami to become his cartographer, promising to free her village if she could pay him 100 million berries. The treasure I've been stealing from pirates, it was all for this, she admitted. I'm close now. So close to buying everyone's freedom. Luffy's expression grew serious, frost forming around his clenched fists. You should have told us sooner. He hurt my navigator. That makes it my problem. Despite Nami's protests that she needed to handle this herself, Luffy was determined to confront Arlong directly. They approached Arlong Park from the sea, Luffy standing proudly at the Merry's bow. Arlong, he shouted as they neared the compound. Come out. The gates opened, revealing a group of fishmen led by a sawshark fishman with a long, serrated nose, Arlong himself. Who dares disturb Arlong Park, he demanded, then spotted Nami aboard the ship. Nami. You've returned. And brought friends. They're not my friends, Nami lied, stepping forward. Just some pirates I tricked. I stole their treasure and led them here for you to finish off. Luffy gave her a puzzled look, but played along. You betrayed us. Of course she did, Arlong laughed. Nami works for me. She's been stealing from pirates for years to buy her village's freedom. A fool's errand, of course. I never intended to honor that agreement. Nami's face went pale. What? But you promised. I've collected almost the full amount. Did you really believe I'd let such a valuable cartographer go? Arlong's laugh was cruel. Humans are so gullible. Ice spread rapidly from Luffy's feet, covering the Merry's deck. You made my navigator cry. What's this? Arlong noticed the ice with surprise. Luffy ate a devil fruit, Nami explained, dropping the pretense of betrayal. The Hie Hie no Mi. He's an ice man. Arlong's expression shifted from amusement to caution. A Logia type. Interesting. He addressed his fishmen. Capture them. The girl stays unharmed, but kill the others. The fishmen attacked en masse, some leaping through the air while others charged through the water. Sanji and Zoro engaged those that reached the ship, while Usopp provided covering fire with his slingshot. Luffy faced Arlong directly, jumping from the ship to land on the concrete edge of Arlong Park. Let's settle this, fish face. You're in over your head, human, Arlong sneered, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. Water is our domain. Your ice powers won't save you here. We'll see about that. Luffy placed his hand on the water's surface. Ice floor. The sea around Arlong Park began to freeze solid, trapping swimming fishmen in place and creating a battlefield of ice. Arlong's eyes widened in alarm. What are you doing? Stop that. You rely on water for advantage, Luffy explained as the ice spread. So I'm taking it away. Arlong charged across the freezing surface, his powerful legs allowing him to maintain balance where others would slip. Shark tooth drill. He spun rapidly, his saw-like nose aiming straight for Luffy's chest. Instead of dodging, Luffy allowed the attack to pass through his ice-transformed body, leaving a perfect circular hole that immediately refilled. That won't work on me, Luffy said, reforming completely. Perhaps not, Arlong acknowledged. But what about them? He gestured to where Sanji battled. Kurubi, a ray fishman martial artist, and Zoro faced Hatchan, an octopus fishman swordsman with 6 blades. Despite their skills, the humans were struggling against the fishman's superior strength. Your friends can't turn into ice, Arlong taunted. They'll die here. Luffy's expression hardened. You underestimate them. Indeed, despite their injuries and disadvantages, Zoro and Sanji began turning the tide. Zoro, still recovering from his duel with Mihawk, unleashed a new technique, Onigiri, that overwhelmed Hatchan's 6-sword style. Sanji, discovering Kurubi's weakness on land, pummeled the ray fishman with his powerful kicks. Usopp, facing the lip-fish Chu, led his opponent away from Arlong Park and into the forest where his traps and superior knowledge of land combat gave him an unexpected advantage. Seeing his officers defeated one by one, Arlong's rage intensified. You inferior beings! I'll show you the true power of a fishman. He dove into a section of water that remained unfrozen, then burst out with terrifying speed. Shark on darts. The attack was too fast for Luffy to transform completely. Arlong's nose grazed his shoulder, drawing blood, the first time Luffy had been injured in battle since eating the Hie Hie no Mi. You're fast, Luffy acknowledged, touching his wounded shoulder. But I'm just getting started. He slammed both hands into the frozen sea. Ice rising. Massive ice spikes erupted from the frozen surface, forcing Arlong to remain above water. The fishman's movements became more predictable, allowing Luffy to counter his next charge. Ice hammer. Luffy's fist, encased in a growing block of ice, slammed into Arlong's jaw with enough force to shatter his sharp teeth. The fishman crashed through the wall of Arlong Park, landing inside his own fortress. Luffy followed, discovering a room filled with maps, Nami's prison for 8 years. Seeing the blood-stained pen still on the desk, understanding the conditions under which Nami had been forced to work, Luffy's rage grew colder, more focused. You enslaved her, he said quietly, frost spreading from his feet up the walls. Enslaved? I elevated her. Arlong spat blood along with broken teeth. Humans are worthless except as tools. Nami's talent makes her useful, that's the only reason she's alive. She's my navigator, Luffy replied, the temperature dropping drastically around him. And my friend. Arlong laughed. Friend? Don't be absurd. What could you possibly offer her that I can't? I can give her wealth, status among fishmen, freedom, Luffy interrupted. And that's worth more than anything you have. The fight resumed with increased intensity. Arlong regrew his teeth instantly, the shark's natural ability, and bit down on Luffy's ice-transformed arm, actually managing to crack it before it reformed. I'm stronger in water, Arlong boasted. But even on land, I'm superior to humans. Maybe to most humans, Luffy acknowledged, but not to me. He created an ice blade extending from his arm. Ice saber. The attack sliced through Arlong's webbed hand as the fishman tried to block, forcing him back. Luffy pressed his advantage, each strike dropping the temperature further until frost covered Arlong's bluish skin. Cold-blooded creatures don't do well in freezing temperatures, Luffy observed as Arlong's movements slowed. Fish freeze pretty easily. I am not, just a fish. Arlong protested, his voice slurring as hypothermia set in. No, you're a bully who hurt my friend. Luffy formed a massive ice gauntlet around his fist. And that's unforgivable. The final blow sent Arlong crashing through Arlong Park's highest level, the structure collapsing around them as Luffy's attack destroyed support pillars in the process. As the dust settled, Arlong lay unconscious amid the rubble, and Luffy stood victorious. The villagers of Kokoyashi, who had gathered to witness the battle, stared in disbelief. Arlong has fallen, someone whispered, the word spreading like wildfire through the crowd. We're free. Another added, tears streaming down their face. Nami pushed through the crowd, staring at the destroyed Arlong Park and her defeated tormentor. 8 years of suffering, of stealing and running and enduring Arlong's cruelty, all ended in a single afternoon by the boy in the straw hat. She fell to her knees, overcome with emotion. Luffy approached, placing his hat on her head just as he had done during their first adventure together. It's over, he said simply. You're free now. The celebration lasted for 3 days. The villagers of Kokoyashi couldn't do enough for the pirates who had liberated them. There was food, drink, music, and dancing in the streets. Nami reunited with her sister Nojiko and visited Belmir's grave, finally able to properly mourn and heal. On the 4th day, as the Going Merry prepared to depart, Nami was nowhere to be found. She's not coming, Usopp suggested sadly. This is her home, after all. Let's wait a little longer, Luffy insisted, perched on the sheep figurehead. Suddenly, Nami appeared, running through the gathered villagers toward the ship. Without stopping, she leaped aboard, lifting her shirt slightly to show everyone her shoulder, where Arlong's tattoo had been replaced with a new design, a tangerine and a pinwheel. Set sail, she shouted, grinning through tears. As the Merry pulled away from Kokoyashi village, the villagers realized Nami had pickpocketed them all during her farewell hugs. Instead of anger, they shouted encouragement. You're still the same Nami. Never change. Take care of our girl, Straw Hats. Luffy laughed from his special seat on the figurehead. Wouldn't have it any other way. Their victory over Arlong had unexpected consequences. Luffy's bounty jumped dramatically to 50 million berries, making him the most wanted pirate in the East Blue. The Marines now considered him a serious threat, particularly due to his rare Logia abilities. The crew's next stop was Logue Town, the city of the beginning and the end, where Gold Roger was born and executed. It would be their last chance to resupply before entering the Grand Line. The place where the Pirate King died, Luffy mused as they approached the bustling port city. I've always wanted to see the execution platform. Marines have a strong presence here, Zoro warned as they docked. Captain Smoker runs this town with an iron fist. Pirates who enter rarely leave. Who's Smoker? Luffy asked. A Marine captain with an impressive record, Nami explained, reading from a newspaper. They say he's never let a pirate escape Logue Town. And... She paused, eyes widening. He has a devil fruit power too, the Moku Moku no Mi. He can create and control smoke. Another Logia user, Sanji remarked, lighting a cigarette. This could be trouble. They split up to handle different tasks, Zoro searching for new swords to replace those broken by Mihawk, Nami shopping for clothes and supplies, Sanji looking for rare ingredients, and Usopp hunting for gadgets and ammunition for his slingshot. Luffy headed straight for the town square, where the execution platform still stood. The platform was higher than Luffy expected, a stark metal structure rising above the square. Without hesitation, he climbed to the top, standing where Gold Roger once stood. So this is the view the Pirate King had, he murmured, gazing across the bustling city toward the sea beyond. The view of a man who conquered the Grand Line. His moment of reflection was interrupted by a familiar voice. Enjoying the view, Straw Hat? Looking down, Luffy spotted Alvida, though she looked dramatically different from their last encounter. Her formerly obese frame was now slender and beautiful. Alvida? Is that you? You look different. The Sub no Mi, she explained with a sultry smile. After you defeated me, I ate a devil fruit that made me beautiful. And I've brought an old friend who's dying to see you again. From the crowd emerged Buggy the Clown, his face contorted with rage. "Remember me, Straw Hat?" "Oh yeah, the big nose guy," Luffy recalled cheerfully. "I'll kill you." Buggy screamed, his separated hands flying up to grab Luffy's ankles. Before Luffy could transform into ice, metal shackles snapped around his wrists and ankles, sea stone cuffs that immediately drained his strength. "Sea stone," Buggy cackled. "Nullifies devil fruit powers. Not so tough now, are you?" The square filled with Buggy's crew, who subdued the gathering crowd. Buggy himself climbed the platform, drawing his sword. "A public execution," he announced gleefully. How fitting that Ice Fist Luffy should die in the same place as Gold Roger. Trapped and powerless, Luffy struggled against the cuffs. His crew was scattered throughout the city, unaware of his predicament. "Any last words?" Buggy asked, raising his sword. Luffy took a deep breath, then shouted at the top of his lungs, "I'm the man who will become the king of the pirates." His declaration echoed across the square, turning every head. In that moment, storm clouds gathered unnaturally quickly overhead, and lightning flashed across the sky. Buggy brought his sword down, but before it could connect, a massive bolt of lightning struck the execution platform. The metal structure conducted the electricity directly into Buggy, while somehow leaving Luffy unharmed. The platform collapsed in flames, and Luffy emerged from the wreckage, the sea stone cuffs shattered by the lightning's force. "That was close," he laughed, dusting himself off. "I thought I was dead. How are you still alive?" Buggy screamed, his charred body twitching from electrical shock. Before Luffy could respond, a new voice cut through the commotion. "Straw Hat Luffy. So the rumors are true." A man with white hair and a jacket bearing marine insignia stood at the edge of the square. Smoke curled from 2 cigars clenched in his mouth. And more smoke seemed to emanate from his body itself. "Captain Smoker," someone in the crowd whispered. "The White Hunter," another added fearfully. "Devil Fruit user Monkey D. Luffy, worth 50 million berries," Smoker announced. "You're under arrest." Luffy grinned, ice forming around his fists. "Sorry, but I can't get arrested yet. I have places to go." White blow. Smoker thrust his arm forward, which transformed into a billowing cloud of smoke that rushed toward Luffy. Ice shield. Luffy created a barrier of ice between them, but the smoke simply flowed around it, reforming as a solid fist that struck him from behind. "What the?" Luffy tumbled forward, surprised at the successful hit. "Smoke passes through physical barriers," Smoker explained, advancing steadily. "Just as your ice can avoid solid attacks." It was Logia versus Logia, smoke against ice. Their powers were fundamentally similar, yet expressed in opposite elements. Smoker's smoke was hot and fluid, while Luffy's ice was cold and solid. "White out." Smoker released a massive cloud that enveloped the entire square, reducing visibility to 0. Luffy countered by drastically lowering the temperature, causing the smoke to condense and fall as sooty precipitation. Ice field. The battle escalated as both Logia users fully embraced their elemental forms. Luffy transformed completely into ice, his crystalline body reflecting light in dazzling patterns. Smoker became a humanoid tornado of dense smoke, swirling and reforming constantly. Physical attacks proved useless as both fighters could simply allow harmful strikes to pass through their transformed bodies. The advantage seemed to lie with Smoker, whose years of experience with his devil fruit gave him greater control and tactical awareness. White launcher. Smoker's smoke coalesced into a massive fist that slammed Luffy into a building, even as the Iceman transformed. "How are you hitting me?" Luffy demanded, climbing out of the rubble. "There are ways to strike even a Logia user," Smoker replied, smoke swirling around his jit, a weapon tipped with sea stone. "You have power but lack experience." Rain began to fall as the unnatural storm intensified. Luffy's ice powers strengthened in the moisture-laden air, allowing him to create larger, more complex ice structures. Ice rampart. He formed a massive wall that temporarily blocked Smoker's advance. The Marine captain simply flowed around it as smoke. Futile. You can't escape. As Smoker closed in for the capture, a powerful gust of wind suddenly tore through the square, disrupting his smoke form and sending him tumbling backward. The wind was so strong it seemed almost solid, cutting between Luffy and his pursuer. A hooded figure stood at the edge of the square, tall, commanding, with a tattooed face partially visible beneath the hood. "Go, Straw Hat," the stranger said in a deep voice. "Your journey is just beginning." "Who are you?" Luffy asked, but another gust pushed him toward the harbor. "Dragon." Smoker shouted, recognizing the figure. "The revolutionary. What are you doing in Log Town?" The hooded man, apparently the infamous revolutionary leader Dragon, didn't answer. The storm intensified around him, lightning striking nearby buildings as wind whipped through the streets. Taking advantage of the distraction, Luffy ran toward the harbor, collecting his scattered crew along the way. They found the Going Merry already prepared for departure. Nami had anticipated the need for a quick escape when the storm began. "Everyone aboard!" Luffy shouted as they reached the dock. "We're leaving now." "What happened?" Usopp asked as they scrambled onto the ship. "Marine with smoke powers tried to arrest me," Luffy explained, helping push the Merry away from the dock. "Then some guy called Dragon showed up and helped me escape." Nami nearly dropped her maps. "Dragon? The dragon? The world's most wanted man. I guess." Smoker seemed pretty shocked to see him. As they navigated away from Log Town through increasingly treacherous waters, Smoker's marine ship gave pursuit. "He's not giving up," Zoro observed, watching the marine vessel cutting through the waves behind them. "Then we'll have to lose him in the storm," Nami decided, taking command as navigator. "All hands on deck. We're entering the Grand Line." The storm marking the entrance to the Grand Line was like nothing they'd experienced before: massive waves, hurricane-force winds, and lightning that struck the sea continuously. Lesser ships would have been destroyed instantly. As they approached Reverse Mountain, the only safe passage into the Grand Line, Smoker's ship still followed, closing the gap. "He's persistent," Sanji remarked, securing the kitchen items against the violent rocking. "And powerful," Luffy added, remembering how the marine's smoke had bypassed his ice defenses. "There are stronger people out there than I realized." The reverse mountain current caught the Merry, sending it rocketing up the steep channel that impossibly flowed uphill. The Marines attempted to follow but were forced to divert when their larger vessel nearly capsized in the powerful current. "We lost them." Usopp cheered as they shot up the mountain. "For now," Luffy said, more serious than usual. "But they'll be back. And next time, I'll be ready." As the Going Merry crested Reverse Mountain and began its descent into the Grand Line proper, a sense of awe fell over the crew. Before them lay the Sea of Dreams and Nightmares, where the strongest pirates competed for supremacy, and somewhere at the end waited the One Piece itself. "This is it," Luffy said, standing at the bow despite the treacherous conditions. "The starting line of my journey to become king of the pirates." To commemorate the moment, each crew member placed a foot on a barrel in the traditional pirate oath. "To find the All Blue," Sanji declared. "To become the world's greatest swordsman," Zoro added. "To draw a map of the entire world," Nami continued. "To become a brave warrior of the sea," Usopp contributed. "To be king of the pirates," Luffy finished, ice crystals swirling around him in excitement. Together, they smashed their feet down on the barrel, sealing their pledge as they plunged into the greatest sea in the world. The Grand Line welcomed them with a monstrous roar, literally, as a massive whale appeared directly in their path. "Is that a whale?" Usopp stammered. "It's going to crush us," Nami screamed. Luffy rushed to the bow, slamming his hands onto the deck. Ice ramp. A sloping ice path formed just in time, allowing the Mary to slide up and over the whale's massive head rather than crashing directly into it. They landed roughly on the other side, the ice structure crumbling behind them. The whale, Laboon, they would later learn, had a history as complex and tragic as any humans. Abandoned by his pirate companions who promised to return after circling the globe, he had spent 50 years ramming his head against the red line in an attempt to break through and find them. After a brief conflict and an unexpected journey inside the whale's painted stomach, courtesy of an old lighthouse keeper named Crocus, Luffy formed an unusual bond with Laboon. Rather than making another empty promise to return, Luffy created a lasting ice sculpture on Laboon's head, the Straw Hat Pirate's Jolly Roger. "This mark means we have unfinished business," Luffy told the whale. "Stop hurting yourself, and wait for me. When I conquer the Grand Line, I'll come back, and we'll settle things properly." Their first true Grand Line adventure began at Whiskey Peak, an island that initially welcomed pirates with open arms, only to reveal itself as a bounty hunter haven run by Baroque Works, a criminal organization with numbered agents and a mysterious leader. After Zoro single-handedly defeated 100 bounty hunters, while Luffy slept through the entire battle, they encountered Mr. Five and Miss Valentine, Baroque Works agents with devil fruit powers. The agents targeted a blue-haired girl named Vivi, actually the princess of Alabasta Kingdom traveling incognito. Learning that Vivi had infiltrated Baroque Works and discovered the identity of its leader, the Shichibukai crocodile, Luffy immediately offered to escort her home to warn her Kingdom of Crocodile's planned coup. "Let me get this straight," Nami summarized. "You want us to escort a princess across the Grand Line, potentially fighting a warlord of the sea who can turn into sand, all while being hunted by an organization of assassins?" "Yep." Luffy confirmed cheerfully. "Sounds fun, right?" "You're insane," Nami sighed. "But I suppose that's why we follow you." With Vivi and her duck Kuro joining them temporarily, the Straw Hats set course for Alabasta, a desert kingdom in the throes of civil unrest. According to Vivi, Crocodile had orchestrated a drought and was manipulating both rebels and royalists toward a civil war. A desert kingdom, Luffy mused, creating small ice sculptures of pyramids and camels in his palm. "That'll be a real test for my powers." "Sand and ice," Zoro observed. "Your fight with Crocodile will be interesting." Luffy grinned. "I can't wait." Little did he know that before reaching Alabasta, they would face giants on Little Garden, the medical mysteries of Drum Island, and gain 2 more crewmates, a reindeer doctor and an enigmatic archaeologist. The ice-powered journey of Monkey D. Luffy was just beginning, his frozen ambitions carrying him toward his destiny as the future Pirate King. Chapter 3, Frozen Throne. The Grand Line showed its unpredictable nature immediately after the crew left Whiskey Peak. One moment they sailed under clear blue skies, the next they battled through pounding hail that bounced off Luffy's raised ice shields protecting the deck. "The weather here makes no sense," Usopp shouted, helping Sanji secure loose rigging as the Mary pitched violently. Nami studied her log pose, the special compass essential for Grand Line navigation. "We need to maintain this heading regardless of weather. The next island should appear soon." Vivi, their royal passenger, clutched her duck Kuro tightly. The Grand Line islands follow a magnetic pattern. Once the log pose locks onto the next island's field, we have to reach it before we can continue. Like stepping stones, Luffy mused from his perch on the sheep figurehead, casually freezing and unfreezing seawater that splashed up. One island after another until we reach Alabasta. The hail transitioned to scorching sunshine within minutes, steam rising from Luffy's ice-coated arms as the crew scrambled to adjust sails and clothing. "Land ho!" Zoro called from the crow's nest, pointing toward a densely forested island emerging from the mist. "Little Garden," Vivi identified it, frowning. "I've heard disturbing reports about this place." The Going Merry navigated through a river mouth into the island's interior, surrounded by towering trees and exotic plants that dwarfed anything they'd seen before. Massive insects buzzed overhead, and the distant roars of unseen beasts echoed through the jungle. "Everything's huge," Luffy exclaimed, eyes wide with excitement. It's like the island is stuck in prehistoric times. That's exactly right, Vivi confirmed. Little Garden is caught in a prehistoric era. The animals and plants here haven't evolved in millions of years. Dinosaurs? Usopp squeaked, knees knocking. Please tell me there aren't dinosaurs. A thunderous roar answered his question as a massive long-necked dinosaur emerged above the tree line, casually munching leaves from a treetop. I've got the I can't set foot on this island disease, Usopp groaned, clutching the mast. Luffy jumped from the ship onto the bank, frost spreading briefly beneath his sandals. This place is awesome. I'm gonna explore. Wait. Nami called. How long will the log pose take to reset here? Vivi shook her head. I'm not sure. It varies from island to island. Could be hours, could be days. Then we should gather food and fresh water while we wait, Sanji suggested. I saw some fruit trees upstream. They split into groups. Luffy and Vivi, with Kuro, would explore inland, Zoro would hunt for meat, Nami and Usopp would stay to guard the ship, and Sanji would gather fruits and vegetables. As Luffy, Vivi, and Kuro ventured deeper into the prehistoric jungle, the scale of everything continued to amaze them. Insects the size of birds buzzed past, plants oozed with massive drops of nectar, and occasional earth-shaking footsteps indicated nearby giants, both literal and figurative. This is the best island ever. Luffy declared, using bursts of ice to propel himself onto higher branches for better views. A tremendous crash interrupted their trek, trees splintered as something massive approached. Vivi clutched Kuro in terror while Luffy prepared for a fight, ice forming around his fists. But instead of a dinosaur, a bearded giant emerged, standing taller than the surrounding trees. Gegia Jayagya. Visitors. How exciting. Whoa. A real giant. Luffy's eyes sparkled with childlike wonder. The giant introduced himself as Dory, one of two legendary warriors from Elbaf who had been dueling on Little Garden for over 100 years. He invited them to his camp, carrying them on his massive palm while explaining the giant's code of honor. Broggy and I have fought 73,466 duels, Dory explained proudly. And we're still tied. We'll continue until one of us proves worthy of Elbaf's blessing. At Dory's camp, they shared a meal, Luffy contributing by flash freezing a river section to trap fish. The giant was fascinated by Luffy's ice powers. Devil fruits are rare treasures, Dory rumbled, watching Luffy create small ice figurines. In all my years, I've seen few with such control. Their pleasant exchange was interrupted by a volcanic eruption, the signal for Dory's duel with Broggy. The giant stood, hefting his massive sword. The best battles are fought between friends, he declared before marching toward the clearing where they conducted their endless duel. Luffy and Vivi watched from afar as the titans clashed, their weapons creating shockwaves that bent surrounding trees. The fight ended in another draw, both giants laughing despite their wounds. Upon returning to his camp, Dory drank from a barrel of rum the Straw Hats had given him as a gift, and immediately collapsed, blood pouring from his mouth. The rum. Vivi gasped. It exploded inside him. Someone sabotaged it, Luffy realized, his casual demeanor instantly replaced with cold fury. Frost spread from his feet as his temperature dropped. Someone's on this island trying to interfere with their duel. Despite his injuries, Dory struggled to his feet when the volcano erupted again, honor demanding he answer the summons to battle. Luffy tried to stop him, only to be swatted aside. A duel is sacred, Dory growled through pain. I must go. While Dory fought Broggy at a severe disadvantage, Luffy and Vivi discovered they weren't alone on Little Garden. Baroque Works agents Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week had followed them, determined to eliminate Vivi before she could reach Alabasta. The unluckies must have spotted us at Whiskey Peak, Vivi realized as they hid from the agents. They've reported our location to Crocodile. Before they could warn the others, they were ambushed. Luffy found himself suddenly encased in a rapidly hardening wax prison, Mr. 3's Doru Doru no Mi power at work. Wax is the perfect counter to your ice, Mr. 3 gloated, his hair styled into a literal number 3. It insulates against cold. Freeze it all you want, it won't shatter. Luffy struggled against the hardening wax. We'll see about that. Meanwhile, the other Straw Hats faced their own troubles. Zoro and Nami had been captured by Mr. 3 and bound to his artistic execution, a rotating wax platform with a giant candle that gradually covered victims in wax until they became living statues. Usopp and Kuro searched frantically for their friends, while Sanji remained unaware of the danger, collecting specimens deeper in the jungle. At Mr. 3's hideout, Luffy watched helplessly as his friends slowly transformed into wax figures on the spinning platform. Broggy was already immobilized, tricked into believing he had killed his friend Dory through dishonorable means. Your crew will make excellent additions to my wax collection, Mr. 3 declared. Eternal art preserved forever. Luffy struggled against his wax bonds. Let them go. I don't think so. Soon you'll all be masterpieces. The wax prison restricted Luffy's movement, but not his devil fruit power. He concentrated intensely, dropping his body temperature far below normal. While the wax itself wouldn't shatter from cold, the moisture trapped within it began to freeze and expand. What are you doing? Mr. 3 asked nervously as tiny cracks appeared in Luffy's restraints. Ice expands, Luffy grunted, pushing his power to its limits. Basic science. With a resounding crack, the wax prison shattered. Luffy emerged, his skin covered in frost patterns, breath visible in the suddenly frigid air. Now I'm really mad, he said, steam rising where his cold body met the warm jungle air. Mr. 3 backed away. Miss Golden Week. Use your colors trap. The small, paint-wielding girl attempted to control Luffy with her hypnotic colors, but his anger had cooled to something more dangerous, a focused, icy determination. He ignored her painted symbols completely. Ice path. Luffy created a frozen highway that spiraled up and around the wax structure, allowing him to reach the giant candle at its top. With a powerful punch, he shattered the candle, stopping the wax rain. No. Mr. 3 wailed. My masterpiece. I'm not finished yet, Luffy declared, placing his hands on the wax platform where his friends were partially encased. I need to get this wax off them. It won't work. Mr. 3 laughed despite his setback. My wax resists temperature changes. You can't freeze it off. Who said anything about freezing? Luffy grinned. Ice melt. Instead of dropping the temperature further, Luffy reversed his technique, drawing heat from the surrounding jungle and channeling it through the wax. The hardened material softened instantly, allowing his friends to break free. He can control heat too. Mr. 3 gasped. Not exactly, Luffy explained, flexing his fingers as they returned to normal temperature. I can move it around. Take it from one place, put it somewhere else. Making ice means removing heat, so I just put that heat back. Zoro, Nami, and Broggy broke free from their softened wax prisons just as Usopp arrived with Kuro. Together, they confronted Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week. Your color tricks won't work on all of us, Nami warned the diminutive artist. Mr. 3 wasn't ready to surrender. Candle Champion. He covered himself in a massive wax armor shaped like a boxer, towering over the pirates. Try freezing through this. Don't need to, Luffy replied. He placed his palm on the ground. Ice floor. The entire clearing transformed into a slick frozen surface. Mr. 3's top-heavy wax armor had no traction, his first step sent him toppling like a felled tree. Gomu no, wait, that's not right, Luffy caught himself, still occasionally thinking in terms of his childhood dream of the rubber fruit. Ice hammer. His fist, encased in a growing block of ice, smashed through Mr. 3's wax armor like glass, sending the agent spiraling into unconsciousness. Miss Golden Week surrendered immediately, while the remaining Baroque Works agents on the island, Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine, were defeated by Usopp and Kuro in an unlikely display of bravery and tactical thinking. With their enemies subdued, they discovered Dory had survived his explosion-induced injuries. The giants, learning they had been tricked by Baroque works, reconciled immediately and pledged their friendship to the Straw Hats. "We've been fighting for a century," Broggy laughed. "What's another 100 years between friends?" As thanks for saving them from eternal waxing, the giants offered to help the Straw Hats escape Little Garden. The log pose would take a full year to reset on this island, but the giants knew of a workaround. "Follow the eternal pose we took from those wax users," Dory suggested. "It points to Alabasta directly." "And will help you leave," Broggy added, pointing to the massive sea kings that circled the island, preventing ships from departing safely. With giant strength on their side, the Straw Hats bid farewell to Little Garden. Dory and Broggy stood at the island's edge, slaying a sea king that attempted to attack the Mary and clearing a path for their escape. "May we meet again in Elbaf," the giants called as the ship sailed away. "Definitely," Luffy shouted back, waving enthusiastically. "Save some duels for me." Their journey toward Alabasta continued through increasingly unpredictable weather. One morning they sweated under tropical heat, by afternoon they shivered as snow accumulated on the deck. "The Grand Line's weather is impossible," Nami complained, huddled under blankets. "Even with the log pose, navigation is a nightmare." Everyone suffered in the cold, except Luffy, who romped through the snowdrifts in his sandals and vest, completely unbothered. "This feels amazing," he exclaimed, creating elaborate ice sculptures along the railing. "My body's working perfectly in this weather." "Must be nice," Usopp muttered through chattering teeth. Their winter weather problems compounded when Nami suddenly collapsed with a dangerously high fever. 42 degrees. Vivi gasped, checking the thermometer. "This isn't normal. She needs a doctor immediately." "I could try cooling her down," Luffy offered, concerned for his navigator. Vivi shook her head. "Too risky. We need proper medicine, not just temperature control." Sanji studied the horizon through snow flurries. There. An island ahead. The island, a winter wonderland of snow-covered mountains, appeared at the perfect moment. As they approached, however, they received a hostile welcome. Armed villagers lined the shore, rifles aimed at the pirate ship. "Turn back now. We don't want your kind here." Luffy stepped forward, hands raised peacefully. "We need a doctor. Our friend is sick." After tense negotiations and the unexpected appearance of a large woman named Kureha, apparently the island's only doctor, the villagers reluctantly allowed them ashore. They learned this was Drum Island, formerly ruled by a tyrant king named Wapol who had fled during a pirate attack, abandoning his people. "Dr. Kureha lives at the castle on the mountain peak," a villager named Dalton explained, pointing to an impossibly tall mountain in the distance. "She only comes to the village when she chooses, bringing her assistant, a strange blue-nosed reindeer." "We can't wait," Luffy decided after checking on Nami's worsening condition. "I'll carry her up the mountain." The climb would be treacherous for anyone, a nearly vertical ascent through blizzard conditions and freezing temperatures. For Luffy, however, the cold presented a unique advantage. Ice staircase. He created a spiraling ice path that wound up the mountainside, much to the villagers' amazement. "Devil fruit powers," Dalton murmured, watching crystalline steps form from nothing. "And ice, of all elements, just like." "Like what?" Vivi asked, noticing his troubled expression. "Nothing," Dalton shook his head. "Just, be careful. There are dangers on this mountain besides the weather." Luffy carried the feverish Nami on his back, with Sanji insisting on accompanying them despite his lack of cold resistance. The cook struggled through knee-deep snow while Luffy moved effortlessly across the frozen landscape. "This is your element, isn't it?" Sanji observed between labored breaths, frost forming on his eyebrows. Luffy nodded. "I've never felt stronger. It's like the cold is feeding my powers instead of fighting them." Their ascent was interrupted by an avalanche, a deliberate one, they soon discovered. Wapol, the exiled king, had returned to reclaim his throne with his two top ministers, Chess and Kuromarimo. "Well, what do we have here?" Wapol sneered from atop his woolly hippo mount. "Trespassers on my mountain. We're just taking our friend to a doctor," Luffy explained, shifting Nami to a more secure position on his back. Wapol's eyes narrowed as he examined Luffy more closely. There's something familiar about you." His gaze fixed on the frost emanating from Luffy's footprints. "Could it be?" "Show me your power, boy." Luffy hesitated, then created a small ice crystal in his palm. "I ate the Hie Hie no Mi. What's it to you?" Wapol's expression transformed from contempt to covetous delight. "The ice fruit. Oh, this is perfect. Chess, do you realize what this means?" The minister adjusted his jester-like hat. "Indeed, your majesty. It's the very power you've sought." "What are you talking about?" Sanji demanded, struggling to his feet after being partially buried in the avalanche. "The power of absolute zero," Wapol explained, licking his metal lips. "I've researched devil fruits for years, looking for the perfect one to complement my Baku no Mi abilities. The Hie Hie no Mi was at the top of my list." Luffy's expression hardened. "Too bad. It's mine now." "Not for long," Wapol grinned maliciously. "My Baku no Mi lets me eat anything and gain its properties. If I eat you, I'll gain your ice powers while keeping my own abilities." "That's disgusting," Sanji muttered. "And impossible." "Is it?" "I've been experimenting with my devil fruit for years." Wapol's jaw unhinged unnaturally. "I'll devour you whole and take what's mine." Luffy gently placed Nami in a protective ice shelter, then faced Wapol. "You're welcome to try." Wapol charged forward, mouth opened impossibly wide. Instead of dodging, Luffy thrust his arm directly into Wapol's mouth, but transformed it to ice at the moment of contact. "Gah!" Wapol recoiled, clutching his throat. "CC cold. Swallowing ice isn't fun, is it?" Luffy approached steadily, the snow around his feet crystallizing into perfect ice. "Especially when it's cold enough to freeze your insides." Chess fired flaming arrows while Kuromarimo launched his static-charged hairballs, but neither attack fazed Luffy. The arrows passed through his ice-transformed body, while the hairballs froze solid and dropped harmlessly at his feet. "Your subordinates can't help you," Luffy told the shivering Wapol. "Give up and leave this island." "Never. This is my kingdom." Wapol transformed his arm into a cannon. Muching battle shooting. The cannonball passed straight through Luffy's chest, leaving a temporary hole that refilled with ice almost instantly. "You can't hurt me with physical attacks," Luffy explained. "But I can hurt you." He slammed his fist into the ground. Ice field. The entire mountaintop transformed into a reflective ice sheet. Wapol and his ministers slipped and slid helplessly, their attacks becoming uncoordinated and ineffective. "I'll remember this." Wapol shouted as he retreated, sliding uncontrollably down the icy mountainside with his ministers tumbling after him. "The Hie Hie no Mi will be mine eventually." With the immediate threat gone, Luffy returned to Nami, whose condition had worsened during the delay. "We need to hurry," Sanji urged. They resumed their climb, finally reaching the castle at the mountain's peak, a structure that seemed formed from the mountain itself, with towers stretching toward the sky. Before they could enter, a strange figure blocked their path. It appeared to be a bipedal reindeer wearing shorts and a pink hat. Upon seeing them, the creature yelped in surprise and transformed into a more traditional reindeer shape, galloping inside. "What was that?" Sanji wondered. "The doctor's assistant, I guess," Luffy replied. "Come on." Inside the castle, they encountered Dr. Kureha, an elderly woman with the vitality of someone half her age, drinking plum wine while examining their unconscious navigator. "She has an extinct disease," Kureha diagnosed after a brief examination. Kestia, from a bug bite. 5 more days of fever would have killed her. Can you save her? Luffy asked anxiously. Already working on it, Kureha nodded to where the strange reindeer was mixing medicines. Chopper is preparing the antibiotics now. While Nami received treatment, Luffy explored the castle, eventually finding the reindeer hiding, poorly, behind a door. Hey! You're really interesting. Luffy called out. Are you a reindeer that looks like a human or a human that looks like a reindeer? The creature emerged hesitantly. I'm Tony Chopper. I ate the Hito no Mi, the human fruit. I'm a reindeer who gained human abilities. That's so cool. Luffy exclaimed. I ate the Hie Hie no Mi. I'm an ice human. Chopper's eyes widened. Another devil fruit user. Can I see your power? Luffy happily demonstrated, creating intricate ice sculptures and transforming parts of his body into crystalline ice. Chopper watched in fascination. The temperature control is amazing, he observed, examining an ice flower Luffy had created. You could selectively freeze tissue without damaging surrounding areas. The medical applications are fascinating. Really? I mostly just freeze bad guys, Luffy laughed. Over the next few days, as Nami recovered, Luffy formed an unlikely friendship with Chopper. The reindeer shared his tragic backstory, rejected by his herd for his blue nose, feared by humans for his monstrous appearance, and finally finding acceptance with a doctor named Hirulek who had sacrificed himself to protect Chopper from Wapple's cruelty. Hirulek believed in the healing power of cherry blossoms, Chopper explained as they stood on the castle balcony overlooking the snow-covered kingdom. He died trying to create a cherry blossom that could bloom in winter, to heal people's hearts. Luffy listened intently, then smiled. I think I can help with that. Just once, as a tribute. He concentrated intensely, combining his most delicate ice control with colors he created by refracting light through precisely shaped crystals. Slowly, ice cherry blossoms formed in the air around them, glowing pink in the winter sunlight, drifting down like a miraculous springtime snow. It's beautiful, Chopper whispered, tears freezing on his fur. Their moment was interrupted by an explosion at the castle's base. Wapple had returned with reinforcements, determined to reclaim his castle and the Hie Hie no Mi, protect Nami. Luffy instructed Chopper and Dr. Kureha. I'll handle this. Outside, Wapple had transformed himself into a weaponized castle, combining his ministers into a chimera-like battle form using his devil fruit's fusion abilities. Behold my ultimate form. Wapple boasted. Now surrender the Hie Hie no Mi, or I'll destroy this entire mountain. You don't get it, Luffy replied, walking calmly down the ice-covered steps. Devil fruits become part of us. You can't just take my power, it's who I am now. Then I'll eat you whole and gain it that way. Wapple charged forward, his massive cannon arms firing continuously. The battle between them escalated quickly. Wapple's weapons were numerous and deadly, but Luffy's ice powers had reached new heights in this winter environment. He moved faster than ever before, the abundant moisture in the air allowing him to create larger, more complex ice structures with minimal effort. Ice avalanche. He triggered a controlled snowslide that buried Wapple's lower half, immobilizing him temporarily. You can't stop me. Wapple raged, eating parts of the castle to incorporate more weapons into his body. This is my kingdom. My mountain. It stopped being yours when you abandoned these people, Luffy replied, gathering power for a decisive attack. The temperature around him dropped dramatically, creating visible distortions in the air. A real king protects his subjects. What would a pirate know about being a king? Wapple sneered. Everything, Luffy answered. Because I'm going to be the king of the pirates. He charged forward, his entire body transforming into crystalline ice that refracted sunlight in dazzling patterns. Ice Comet. The impact sent Wapple flying from the mountain, his combined form separating mid-air as he disappeared into the distant sky with a faint twinkle. As the echo of battle faded, Chopper emerged from the castle, having protected Nami and defeated several of Wapple's soldiers himself. "You did it," the reindeer exclaimed. "He's really gone." "Probably landed on another island," Luffy grinned. "Or in the ocean. Either way, he won't bother Drum Kingdom again." With Wapple defeated and Nami recovered, it was time for the Straw Hats to continue their journey. Dr. Kureha provided medicines and advice for treating various conditions they might encounter in the Grand Line. As they prepared to depart, Luffy approached Chopper. "Join my crew." "What?" Chopper stepped back in surprise. "Be our doctor. Travel with us, see the world, find medical discoveries beyond this mountain." Chopper hesitated. "But I'm a monster. People will be afraid." "We're all monsters in some way," Luffy shrugged. "Zoro uses 3 swords and has demon energy. Sanji fights with only his feet. I'm literally made of ice. You'll fit right in." The offer proved too tempting to resist. Despite Dr. Kureha's gruff objections, which thinly veiled her pride in her student's growth, Chopper decided to join the Straw Hat Pirates as their doctor. Their departure from Drum Island became legendary in the kingdom. As the Going Merry sailed away, Dr. Kureha triggered Hirolik's final invention, a chemical reaction that turned the falling snow pink, creating the illusion of cherry blossoms blooming across the winter landscape. "Look!" Chopper cried from the ship's railing. "Cherry blossoms in winter. Hirolik's dream." Alongside the natural phenomenon, Luffy added his own tribute, massive ice cherry trees that grew from the mountaintops, their crystalline blossoms catching the sunlight and casting pink reflections across the snow. The combined effect transformed the entire island into a wonderland of winter cherry blossoms. "A proper goodbye gift," Luffy said, placing his hand on Chopper's small shoulder. "For the doctor who saved you." As Drum Island faded into the distance, the newly expanded Straw Hat crew set course for Alabasta, where Princess Vivi's kingdom awaited salvation from Crocodile's schemes. The journey to Alabasta provided valuable time for Chopper to integrate with the crew. His medical knowledge proved immediately useful, treating Zoro's lingering injuries from Mihawk and developing specialized creams to protect everyone from the desert climate they would soon face. For Luffy, the approach to a desert kingdom presented unique challenges. "My powers might be limited in such a dry environment," he explained during a crew meeting. "Less moisture in the air means I'll need to be more efficient with my ice." "You could carry water containers," Chopper suggested. "Use them as an emergency source for your abilities." Nami nodded. "And I've been charting the weather patterns. Even deserts have temperature variations we can exploit, cold nights, morning dew, oases." "We're approaching Alabastas' outer islands," Vivi announced as sandy landmasses appeared on the horizon. "The mainland is still 2 days' journey." They docked at Nanohana, a port city on Alabastas' edge, to gather supplies and information. The kingdom's condition had deteriorated during Vivi's absence, drought had intensified, civil unrest was spreading, and rebel forces were mobilizing against her father, King Cobra. "All orchestrated by Crocodile," Vivi explained bitterly. "He's created this crisis to position himself as the hero when he really plans to take over the kingdom." "He's one of the 7 warlords," Zoro reminded them. "Government-sanctioned pirates with immunity. We're not just fighting a powerful man, we're challenging the world government's authority." "I don't care about any of that," Luffy declared. "He's hurting Vivi's people. That's enough reason to kick his ass." Their planning session was interrupted by commotion in the port. Marines had arrived, led by Captain Smoker and Ensign Tashigi from Logue Town. "They followed us," Sanji realized, peering through a window. "All the way to the Grand Line." "Smoker's determined," Luffy agreed, recalling their previous encounter. "And his smoke powers are a real challenge, even for me." They attempted to leave Nanohana discreetly, but chaos erupted when Luffy was spotted. In the confusion, they encountered an unexpected figure, Luffy's brother, Portgas D. Ace, a commander in the Whitebeard Pirates. "Little brother." Ace greeted warmly, creating a firewall that separated them from the pursuing Marines. Still causing trouble everywhere you go, I see. Ace. Luffy embraced his brother enthusiastically, steam rising where Ace's fire-powered body met Luffy's naturally cooler temperature. What are you doing in Alabasta? Tracking someone, Ace replied cryptically. But I heard rumors about an ice-powered pirate with a straw hat and knew it had to be you. The brothers' reunion was brief but meaningful. Ace entrusted Luffy with a blank piece of paper, a Vivre card that would allow them to find each other again. The next time we meet might be at the Pirate Summit, Ace said as they parted ways. You've chosen good nakama, Luffy. Take care of each other. With Marines still in pursuit, the Straw Hats journeyed inland toward Alyabarna, Alabasta's capital, where Vivi hoped to prevent the rebel army from attacking. Along the way, they discovered more about Crocodile's organization, Baroque Works, and his ultimate plan, to obtain an ancient weapon hidden somewhere in Alabasta. Their desert crossing proved challenging. The arid environment limited Luffy's ice generation, forcing him to conserve his powers for essential moments. Nights brought relief as temperatures dropped, allowing him to replenish by freezing the increased atmospheric moisture. It's like having a battery that only partially recharges, he explained to Chopper, who monitored his condition with scientific curiosity. Despite obstacles including Baroque Works assassins, sandstorms, and desert bandits, they finally arrived at Rain Base, Crocodile's desert casino city where he maintained his legitimate facade as a national hero. Remember, he doesn't know we're onto him, Vivi cautioned as they observed Crocodile's pyramid-shaped casino, Rain Dinners. We need to catch him admitting his plans. Or I could just freeze him solid, Luffy suggested, cracking his knuckles. He's a sand Logia, Nami reminded him. Like you, physical attacks pass right through him. Luffy grinned. Sand has a weakness ice doesn't. Get it wet, and it turns solid. Their infiltration of Rain Dinners went disastrously wrong when Smoker appeared, having tracked them from Nanohana. In the ensuing chaos, Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Usopp, and Smoker fell through a trap door into Crocodile's underground chamber, a cage made of sea prism stone that nullified devil fruit powers. Welcome, Straw Hat, Crocodile greeted from outside the cage, his hook gleaming in the low light. Beside him stood his partner, a raven-haired woman called Miss All Sunday. I've been curious about the rookie making such a reputation. Trapped and powerless, Luffy could only glare as. Crocodile revealed his full plan. He had manipulated the drought, the rebellion, and even the king's reputation, all to locate Alabasta's ancient weapon, Pluton. Once found, he would use it to establish his own military kingdom. You're destroying lives for a weapon. Luffy demanded, gripping the sea stone bars despite their energy-draining effect. Power is everything in this world, Crocodile replied dismissively. A childish pirate playing with ice wouldn't understand. To demonstrate his superiority, Crocodile placed a key to their cage on a nearby table, then opened a trapdoor beneath it, dropping the key into a basement full of banana crocodiles, massive reptiles that began fighting over the small metal object. Enjoy watching your only escape being digested, Crocodile laughed. I'm off to collect a princess and finish a revolution. After Crocodile and Miss All Sunday departed, flooding the room to ensure the prisoners would eventually drown, an unexpected rescue arrived. Mr. 3, whom they had defeated on Little Garden, had been hiding in the palace. Using his wax powers, he created a replica key that freed them from the cage. Don't thank me, the wax man sneered. I only did it to spite Crocodile for trying to eliminate me. The group split up. Smoker, honoring a temporary truce, pursued Crocodile on his own, while the Straw Hats raced to prevent the rebel army from attacking Alyabarna. Their journey across the desert pushed everyone to their limits. Water became precious, temperatures soared, and Baroque Works assassins harried their progress. For Luffy, separated from the others after a battle with Crocodile's subordinates, the challenge became personal when he discovered an oasis village Crocodile had drained completely, leaving its inhabitants to die of thirst. A real pirate has honor, Luffy told a dying old man as he used his remaining strength to freeze morning dew into drinking water for the villagers. Crocodile is just a power-hungry tyrant hiding behind a government title. When Luffy finally reached Alyabarna, the capital was already under siege. Rebel forces clashed with royal guards while Baroque Works agents sowed further chaos. His crew had infiltrated the city, each engaging officer agents in decisive battles across different districts. At the royal palace, Luffy found Vivi protecting her father from Crocodile, who had revealed his true nature to the shocked monarch. "Your Majesty," Crocodile sneered, sand swirling around him. "Your reign ends today. Tell me where Pluton is hidden, and I may let you live long enough to see your new world order." "Alabasta will never bow to you," King Cobra declared defiantly. "Then you'll die first," Crocodile raised his hook, ice spear. Luffy's attack, a jagged ice lance extending from his arm, passed through Crocodile's sandy torso, temporarily disrupting his form. "You escaped," Crocodile observed, reforming smoothly. "Impressive, but futile. In this environment, my powers are absolute." "We'll see about that," Luffy replied, producing a small barrel of water he'd carried across the desert. "I came prepared this time." Their battle erupted across the palace grounds, Logia versus Logia, ice against sand. Under normal circumstances, their powers would make them virtually untouchable, attacks passing harmlessly through transformed bodies. But both had discovered the other's weakness. Crocodile used his Suna no Mi abilities to dry anything he touched, creating quicksand pits, sandstorms, and blade-like sand that could cut through stone. His years of experience with his devil fruit made him devastatingly effective, his control absolute. Luffy countered with his ice powers, now adapted to desert conditions. Rather than creating massive ice structures that would quickly sublimate in the heat, he focused on precision, thin ice needles that required minimal moisture, targeted freezing that maximized impact with minimal energy expenditure. Desert La Spada. Crocodile sent blades of compacted sand slicing toward Luffy. Ice mirror. Luffy created a reflective ice shield that deflected the attack, though the shield itself cracked from the impact and heat. Their duel escalated as they tested each other's limits. Crocodile discovered that while water solidified his sand form, extreme cold could accomplish the same, freezing sand particles together and limiting his ability to disperse. Luffy learned that Crocodile could dehydrate his ice constructs directly, turning them to dust before they reached their target. "You're clever for a rookie," Crocodile acknowledged as they circled each other in the palace courtyard. "But outmatched. I've spent decades mastering my powers." "I make up for experience with creativity," Luffy replied, splashing some of his precious water onto his hands and flash freezing it. Ice gauntlet. His water-infused ice fist connected with Crocodile's chest before the warlord could transform, sending him crashing through a stone column. The water-ice combination temporarily solidified Crocodile's sand body, allowing for actual damage. Crocodile rose, genuine anger replacing his usual arrogance. Ground Secco. The devastating attack dried everything in a massive radius, plants withered, stone cracked, and Luffy's remaining water evaporated instantly from its container. The courtyard became a desiccated wasteland. "No more tricks," Crocodile smirked. "No moisture left for your ice powers." Luffy struggled to generate even small ice crystals, the bone-dry air resisting his abilities. Crocodile pressed his advantage, a sand blade slicing across Luffy's chest before he could transform. Blood spilled onto the parched ground as Luffy stumbled backward. Unlike regular wounds that didn't affect him in ice form, this cut remained. Crocodile had infused the sand with his dehydration power, preventing Luffy's regenerative transformation. "First blood to me," Crocodile observed coldly. "There will be much more before I finish." Despite his injury, Luffy refused to yield. He remembered his training, his promise to Shanks, his commitment to his crew. Most importantly, he recalled Vivi's tears when describing her people's suffering. "A king protects his subjects," Luffy muttered, echoing his words to Wapol. "The king of pirates protects his friends." He concentrated intensely, not on the dry air around him, but on himself, the moisture within his own body. It was dangerous, potentially fatal, but he needed just enough power for one decisive attack. "What are you doing?" Crocodile asked, noticing ice crystals forming along Luffy's arms despite the arid conditions. "Using everything I have," Luffy answered, his voice raspy as his body temperature dropped dangerously. Ice spread across his skin, forming intricate patterns that resembled frost on a window. "Ice ice. Die fighting," then, Crocodile thrust his hand forward. "Desert Spada. Absolute Zero." The collision of their attacks created a phenomenon never before witnessed in Alabasta's history. The temperature at their point of impact dropped so drastically that the air itself liquefied briefly before freezing solid. Crocodile's sand, caught in the effect, crystallized instantly into glass-like structures. "Impossible." Crocodile gasped as his transformed body partially shattered, actual pain registering for the first time in years. "What have you done?" "Removed all heat," Luffy explained, his voice weak but triumphant. "Even sand freezes if it's cold enough." The frozen crocodile struggled to reform, but Luffy wasn't finished. With his remaining strength, he slammed his ice-covered fist into Crocodile's crystallized form. "This is for Vivi, and Alabasta." The impact shattered Crocodile completely, fragments of his frozen sand body scattering across the courtyard. Unlike his usual dispersal and reformation, this time the pieces remained solid, the extreme cold preventing his Logia reconnection. Gradually, as the temperature normalized, Crocodile painfully reformed, but as a human, not sand, his devil fruit temporarily neutralized by the unprecedented cold. "You!" he croaked, struggling to his feet only to fall again. "How?" "I had something worth fighting for," Luffy replied simply before collapsing himself, the dangerous technique having drained him completely. The final moments of the battle were witnessed by Miss All Sunday, revealed to be Nico Robin, an archaeologist searching for the true history of the world. Seeing Crocodile defeated and his plans in ruins, she made a decision that would change the course of her life. As royal guards arrived to arrest the fallen warlord, Robin slipped away, but not before ensuring both Luffy and Crocodile would receive the medical attention they needed to survive. In the aftermath, rain returned to Alabasta, a miraculous downpour that ended 3 years of drought. The rebellion ceased immediately, with King Cobra revealing Crocodile's manipulation to his people. The world government, embarrassed by a warlord's exposure as a criminal, attempted to credit the Marines with Crocodile's defeat, but the truth spread regardless: the Straw Hat Pirates had saved a kingdom. During their recovery at the palace, the crew prepared for departure. Their mission complete, it was time to continue their journey through the Grand Line. Vivi faced the difficult choice of remaining with her kingdom or joining her friends as a pirate. "The offer remains open," Luffy told her as they gathered on the Mary. "You'll always have a place with us." In a bittersweet decision, Vivi chose her kingdom, watching from the shore as her friends sailed away. Their farewell lacked words but conveyed everything through a simple raised arm displaying the X mark they had drawn as a symbol of their bond. The Straw Hats had barely left Alabastus waters when they discovered a stowaway. Nico Robin, former partner to Crocodile, had chosen to join their crew. "You saved me," she told a suspicious Luffy. "Even though you had no reason to." "What are you talking about?" "We didn't save you." "You did," she insisted. "I've lost everything repeatedly, lived only for revenge and knowledge. Seeing you fight for a friend's kingdom, watching your crew risk everything for each other, you showed me there might be another way to live." Despite the crew's reservations, Luffy accepted Robin's request to join them. "Everyone deserves a chance," he declared. "Besides, we need an archaeologist." Their expanded crew had barely celebrated Robin's addition when a newspaper arrived via News Coup, carrying their updated bounty posters. The government had significantly raised the stakes: Monkey D, Luffy, Ice Emperor, 100 million berries, Roronoa Zoro, Pirate Hunter, 60 million berries, Ice Emperor. Luffy examined his new epithet with surprise. "That's pretty cool." The world government considers you a major threat now, Robin explained, familiar with the political implications. Defeating a warlord elevated you from rookie to genuine contender in their eyes. The higher bounty attracts stronger hunters, but also signals to other powers that you're someone to watch. They're right to worry, Nami commented, studying the sea charts for their next destination. At this rate, you might actually become the Pirate King. Luffy stood at the Mary's figurehead, his usual spot for contemplation. In just months since entering the Grand Line, his crew had grown, his powers had developed, and his reputation had spread far beyond the East Blue where his journey began. The Hie Hie no Mi, once an accidental acquisition, had become an integral part of who he was as a pirate and a captain. Pirate King, he murmured, creating a small ice crown in his palm that caught the sunlight in dazzling patterns. One step closer. As the Going Merry sailed into waters unknown, Monkey D. Luffy gazed forward, ice crystals dancing around him in the sea breeze. The world government had labeled him an emperor of ice, but his ambition reached far beyond that frozen throne. The next islands would bring new adventures, stronger enemies, and greater challenges, all stepping stones on his path to becoming the freest person on the seas. Behind him, his loyal crew prepared for whatever came next. They had survived Reverse Mountain, fought giants, crossed deserts, and defeated a warlord. The Grand Line had tested them and found them worthy of continuing. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together, the Straw Hat Pirates, following their ice-powered captain toward the ultimate dream. Full speed ahead. Luffy commanded, his laugh carrying across the waves. To the next adventure. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.